Xiao's new dynasty, thriving for 3 years. Immortal calendar year 864. Jianzhou City. 3 years have passed since the withering away of the previous Yan country, and everything seems to be buried by time. The first ray of sunlight at noon enters the city, bringing a lively atmosphere to the entire place. The teahouses, inns, and taverns on the streets are packed with people, and the laughter of diners makes the area very bustling. On the official road, merchants shout and come and go, ice-gourd vendors stand at the corners, pedestrians are in an endless stream, and children play and run around. What a prosperous scene. There is a delicately built pawnshop tile house in the east of the city, with the words Huai's Pawnshop engraved on the plaque. Boss Zhao, take a look, how much is this stone worth? A large man with a sweat towel tied to his forehead throws an ordinary pebble and flicks it in front of a young man. This young man is quite handsome. Dressed in a black long shirt, with a neat and spotless appearance, and a string of golden bronze coins on his waist. His face is fair, with sharp features, a prominent nose, and a jade-like elegance, with a smile at the corner of his mouth. He seems quite approachable and friendly. Zhao Huai picks up the stone, and examines the crystal-clear pebble in front of him for a moment. Then suddenly, a golden bronze coin appears in his hand, and he tosses it indifferently. This seemingly casual action does not catch the attention of the large man. 200 wen, what do you think? After looking for a long time and tossing the copper coin for half a day, Zhao Huai finally spoke. 200 wen? I can't go any higher. 200 wen it is, sigh, I'm so unlucky. The large man complains in his mouth, but the laughter in the corner of his eye cannot be hidden. Wait for me to find change. Zhao Huai whispers and then rummages through the drawer beneath him. Now that the large man has gotten his price, he is not in a hurry. With his hands supporting the counter, his small eyes start to sneak around. But after looking for a while, he can't help but feel disappointed. He finds that the shop is really poor, there are not even any valuable calligraphy or paintings on display. So he casually says, I say, shopkeeper, you run a pawn shop, but don't have a single treasure worth showing off? With this kind of display, people who come here may be afraid to entrust their belongings to you. Zhao Huai takes out a string of square-hole copper coins from the drawer. He counts them one by one, and there are exactly 200 pieces. I can't help it, business is not booming. Zhao Huai raises his head and replies helplessly. That's true. Your reputation as the pawnshop young master is not unfounded. It's a miracle that your shop has been open for 3 years. The large man chuckles lightly, sounding like he's teasing, but more like being sarcastic. But Zhao Huai doesn't get angry when hearing this, and just says indifferently. The pawnshop is for making a living. It's best to make money, but there's no need to force it if you can't. The large man hears this and laughs. The shopkeeper's attitude is indeed very open-minded. I'm a seasoned man, I've gotten used to it. Here, take this money. Zhao Huai hands over the money with a smile. The large man grabs the money, feeling the heaviness in his hand, and his heart is at ease and his mood instantly becomes pleasant. He can't help but say another sentence. I say, shopkeeper, you came to Jianzhou 3 years ago, right? Upon hearing this, Zhao Huai immediately becomes vigilant, but still has a smile on his face, and asks back. How do you figure? The large man glances around and whispers, if so, you need to be careful. I don't know why, but the government office has been investigating new households that have come to various states in the past 3 years. Wang Era, who sells cakes next door, came to Jianzhou 3 years ago and is an unregistered citizen. He was arrested for questioning by the government office yesterday and is now in unknown condition. If it's not the case, just count it as me farting. The big man teases with a grin. Zhao Huai shakes his head and says with a light laugh, don't worry, I've been in Jianzhou for 7 or 8 years, so you don't need to worry about me. Alright, I'll try to send some business your way another day. I'll be going now. The big man grips the money in his hand and leaves without delay, not staying any longer. As he leaves, he's still chuckling to himself. Haha. A stone picked up from the mountain can be sold for 200 wen, this owner must be a fool, hee, there's my meal money for the next 2 days. Zhao Huai sat in his chair, watching the big man leave, his smile gradually fading, becoming very serious. He stood up, closed the door, and flipped the closed sign. Zhao Huai went to the dark warehouse behind the shop and lit the oil lamp. The entire warehouse was filled with precious antiques, bejeweled spiritual stones, and other treasures. In the highest level of the warehouse, there was a delicate wooden box with a white jade imperial dragon seal embedded in it. Zhao Huai held the stone he had just acquired. Splash! In an instant, the stone in his palm turned to powder. As the dust dispersed, a jade-like black ring appeared in his hand. Who's the fool now? At this moment, Zhao Huai's mouth revealed a deep and profound smile. His eyes were as sharp as a knife. He was actually not a native of this world but a transverser. When he opened his eyes, he found himself surrounded by eunuchs in a magnificent imperial palace. Only then did he realize that he had traveled through time and had become a fugitive prince. The last crown prince of the Yan dynasty. The Yan dynasty was originally a great unified dynasty, but his former self was pleasure-seeking, incompetent in ruling and cultivating, setting a tone of mediocrity. If the son can be educated like this, the father is not a good bird either. All prosperous dynasties cannot escape the fate of decline. The Yan dynasty was overthrown by the rebel army, and the emperor hanged himself on a tree behind the palace. On that day, his previous self escaped the palace and, unable to bear the humiliation of being on the run, attempted to commit suicide by drowning in a lake. The man died, but he came along. The new dynasty that replaced it was the today's Xia dynasty. Zhao Huai went south, continuing his flight, passing through numerous states and counties, and finally settling down in Yanqing City, a seaside city in the south, near Jinzhou. Zhao Huai stared at the golden bronze coins in his hand, lost in thought. Along the way, he avoided the search, experienced war turmoil, plague, and famine. People around him died tragically on the road, but why was he the only one to survive? He relied on this golden bronze coin. As long as he tossed the coin, he could know the good and bad of things in his mind and predict the fate of future events beforehand. With this small coin, Zhao Huai had survived, sold the jewelry he brought from the palace, and opened a small pawnshop to live in seclusion among the people. He had been living like this for 3 years. During these 3 years, Zhao Huai had no desire for revenge. Honestly speaking, he didn't feel much about his predecessor's enmity. He just wanted to survive and that's it. This was a world where immortal cultivation was revered, and humans and demons coexisted. The mortal world was ruled by various dynasties, and cultivators were bound by 5 ancient and powerful immortal cultivation sects. These powerful sects are also known as immortal sects. Immortal sects generally do not interfere in worldly affairs. So Zhao Huai's intention was clear, cultivating immortality was what he should do, and becoming an immortal was his goal. Only when one becomes an immortal can they be self-sufficient. As for the trivial hatred of his father's death, well, he'll settle it in his next life. Zhao Huai tightly held the black ring, remaining silent and looking forward to it, and immediately tossed the golden bronze coin in his hand. He didn't know what was in the ring. Was it a devil who wanted to seize his body? Or a kind grandpa? Who knows? So when in doubt, toss a coin first. In an instant, a line of words appeared before Zhao Huai's eyes. Misfortune and fortune depend on each other, have a look for now. For both, seek not from others but yourself, thousands of hexagrams, all from the heart. Hexagram 1, Serendipity, blessing for those who dwell in it, mysterious ring, unknown origin, take the ring, the instruction you get is fortune. Seeing the word fortune in the text, Zhao Huai immediately showed a bright smile. Since it was a blessing, it meant there was nothing harmful to him. Without a word, Zhao Huai bit his fingertip and dripped blood onto the black ring to recognize it as his master. An odd feeling surged up in his heart, and he could already see what was inside the black ring. Before Zhao Huai could take a glance, an orange light flew out and entered his mind. Zhao Huai hurriedly examined the light in his mind. The black ring symbolizes great fortune, all things will go smoothly, start with good luck. Lucky Strike, Superior Earth Grade, gain a large amount of flowing chi, increase the probability of obtaining destiny, improve quality, and change the results of fortune and misfortune once a day. There's actually a new destiny? This destiny looks unusual, it's actually an orange Earth Grade. This is the first time to get an Earth Grade destiny, Zhao Huai said with surprise. Every time he casts copper coins and reaches a certain number of fortune or misfortune divinations, it triggers another function of the copper coins. Absorb destiny and change fate against the heavens. However, this destiny is as mysterious as a blind box. Each time it comes out, the grades and additional effects are different. The destiny of copper coins is divided into 7 levels: Immortal, Emperor, Heaven, Earth, Xian, Yellow, and Human, which are further divided into 3 ranks: Upper, Middle, and Lower. Human grade is the lowest, and Immortal grade is the highest. This Lucky Strike destiny should be the best he has gotten in 3 years. Ever since Zhao Huai got the golden bronze coins, he hasn't received many destinies, very few of which are useful, and most of which are useless. The 3 destinies he is currently using are: Light as a Swallow, Human Grade Average, excellent body movements, increased agility, and your speed is extraordinary. Swordsmanship Specialization, Superior Yellow Grade, greatly fond of swordsmanship, enhancing the efficiency of practicing and repairing swords moderately. Diligent Reader, Superior Xian Grade, persevering and persistent, tireless cultivation makes your cultivation speed 3 times faster than ordinary people. Light as a Swallow, and Swordsmanship Specialization, are easy to understand, both related to martial arts destinies, which can increase small buffs. It's better than nothing. Among these, Zhao Huai thought the most useful destiny was the one called Diligent Reader. This scroll does not refer to the pressure of competition but to the scroll of books. As the saying goes, diligent reader refers to tireless, unceasingly diligent people, generally referring to hardworking students. One snowy evening a year ago, Zhao Huai came across a young scholar on his way to take the imperial exams in the capital. Because it was late, the inns were closed, and the scholar came to Zhao Huai's pawnshop hoping to stay overnight. Zhao Huai thought the scholar didn't look like a bad person, and after receiving guidance from the copper coins, he took him in. The destiny of Diligent Reader came along with it. It was precisely because of this threefold increase in cultivation that Zhao Huai was able to cultivate all the way to the 9th stage of refining qi in just 3 years, with initiation stage just around the corner. So he was particularly concerned about this newly acquired Lucky Strike. Do you want to absorb destiny? Seeing the small characters that appeared in his mind, Zhao Huai didn't hesitate at all. Absorb it right away. A blazing, brilliant light bloomed in his mind, and the orange light instantly filled his entire consciousness. Suddenly, an invisible force was drawn to Zhao Huai, causing him to shudder. Zhao Huai felt as if something had indeed increased on his body, but he couldn't see what it was. Because the flowing qi is invisible and intangible, it can only be sensed slowly over time. Lucky Strike allows me to increase the probability and quality of obtaining destinies, which means I can get more destinies? Zhao Huai furrowed his brows and pondered, I'm not quite sure about changing fortunes and misfortunes for now. Does it directly change the divination results of the copper coins? He temporarily suppressed his doubts and checked the items in the ring. Except for a thick parchment, an ancient sword, and a bottle of pills, there was nothing else inside. The text on the parchment was obscure and difficult to understand, and he didn't know what medicine was in the pills. As for the ancient sword, it was still extremely sharp and emitted a faint glow. The 3 items didn't seem too amazing, which was a bit disappointing to his excited passion. He thought there would be some grandpa figure coming out, or at least some earth-shattering cultivation technique treasure. Are these 3 items really that simple, considering they're called the symbols of great fortune? Zhao Huai said with a puzzled look. If it weren't for the results of the copper coins, he would have doubted if things had gone wrong. Hurry up. Over here. Search. Suddenly, the rustling sound of belts and sabers colliding came from outside the pawnshop. With his cultivation level, Zhao Huai's ears were extremely sharp, and he immediately heard the movement outside the house. It seems the people from the police station have arrived, Jiao Huai said solemnly. The big man mentioned before that the city was strictly checking those who arrived in Jianzhou in the past 3 years, as well as unregistered citizens. The purpose behind this was unknown for the time being. If they were truly here to arrest him, he would have to prepare countermeasures in advance with gold and bronze coins. Isn't turning misfortune into fortune simple? Moreover, my own cultivation has reached the 9th stage of refining qi, so I haven't encountered any opponents in the mortal world for now. As thoughts flickered, Jiao Huai tossed the gold and bronze coin in his hand once more. Soldiers are chasing me outside the house, how should I act now? Come on, give me an accurate answer. Misfortune and fortune are interdependent, for now, let's see. Hexagram 1, on an auspicious day, outside the peach blossom world, the guidance you receive is fortune. Hexagram 2, in the house, soldiers bring calamity. If you encounter fear, you'll give rise to chaos. If you stay at home, the guidance you'll get is misfortune. Since that's the case, let's go. After checking the results, Jiao Huai pocketed the bronze coin, closed the warehouse, and decisively left. On the originally bustling and noisy streets, several groups of armor-clad soldiers with long sabers had appeared, attracting a lot of people's attention. The equipment of these soldiers was quite sophisticated, with fish-scale armor and long sabers, driving the crowds on the streets. There wasn't a single commoner who wasn't afraid, each one had to roll up their sleeves and hurriedly leave. What kind of grand operation is this? Who are they trying to catch? I don't know. Let's go. I heard some rumors that they seem to be investigating newcomers and unregistered citizens in recent years. Could it be that some great thief has fled to Jianzhou? Oh no, if there's a murderer who has escaped here, we're in trouble. Among the crowd, Jiao Huai listened to the people's discussions, constantly thinking. Are these armored soldiers here to catch him? Based on previous experience, it looks a bit like an overreaction now, doesn't it? In his first year of fleeing south, there were many searches and they were very strict, as the new dynasty was worried about the whereabouts of the remnants of the previous dynasty like him. However, in the following years, both the number and quality of people decreased year by year. The dispatched personnel changed from soldiers to some minor officials for investigation, and they were not as concerned about him as before. At the beginning of the Xia country, everything was thriving, so they naturally didn't have time to manage an unnecessary former crown prince. However, now the pursuers have returned to their first-year level, which looks very strange. It doesn't seem like they are here to catch him. No matter what, avoiding misfortune is always the right choice. Jiao Huai shook his head, not wanting to think about it anymore. Since staying in the pawnshop meant misfortune, he couldn't gamble on it. How can I escape this search? I need a place to go. Faced with a difficult choice, Jiao Huai picked up a golden bronze coin from his waist and tossed it again. Hexagram 1, going to the downtown street, the guidance you receive is disaster. Hexagram 2, going to the tea house, the guidance you receive is disaster. Hexagram 3, going to the Drunken Flower Tavern, the guidance you receive is disaster. Hexagram 10, going to the Fragrant Wine Alley, the guidance you receive is disaster. Damn, it's haunted. Jiao Huai's face showed shock after casting 10 coins and all of them resulted in disaster, which meant that disaster was unavoidable. It seems that no matter where he goes, it's not safe. This situation has happened before, he must use the results obtained and come up with a solution to change the fortune or misfortune. However, he quickly calmed down and suddenly remembered the new destiny he had just obtained. Jiao Huai clenched his fist, not admitting defeat, and said, "Heh, I just don't believe it. Activate, Lucky Strike, change the outcome of fortune and misfortune once." As the bronze coin leaped into the air again, it turned over. A new hexagram appeared before him. Misfortune relies on fortune, and fortune hides within misfortune. Changing the outcome of fortune and misfortune at this moment. Fortunately relies on each other, let's take a look. Hexagram 11, if you divinate, there will be no regrets. Head to the matchmaking agency, and you will be guided to fortune. Matchmaking agency? Zhao Huai unconsciously hesitated when he saw this place. This matchmaking agency was an institution representing the ancient government in charge of handling marriages between men and women. There were many matchmakers inside, specializing in introducing marriages, and it was also known as an official matchmaker. In other words, in modern parlance, this place was for arranging blind dates and introductions. If you divinate, there will be no regrets. This line comes from the Book of Songs and its meaning is quite clear. It is telling him to prepare for marriage. Zhao Huai could only smile bitterly. Could it be that he, a passionate youth in his 20s, was supposed to go on a blind date? But after thinking about it, he only cared about avoiding misfortune by going there. He was not really going on a blind date, but just to gain new experiences. At the same time, a ray of blue light escaped from the copper coins and entered Zhao Huai's mind. This meant that a new destiny had been added. Expecting a great outcome, Zhao Huai checked the blue light cluster. After the star points scattered, a message appeared. Dragon seeking, inferior yellow grade, seek the dragon and unlock its treasures, peer through mountains and break barriers. With this destiny, the heart is clear, ghostly walls are impenetrable, and one will never get lost. It seems useful, but it also seems useless. What's going on? Zhao Huai muttered to himself. He divined which paths would bring fortune and misfortune, but the result was a destiny that only helped with finding his way. However, fortunately, Lucky Strike had truly taken effect. In the past, it wouldn't have been so simple to draw an inferior yellow-grade destiny. After glancing at the sparsely populated street, Zhao Huai did not delay and hurried to the matchmaking agency. The matchmaking agency was located in the northwest corner of Qinghan City, nestled among the wealthy houses of the rich merchants. This area was mostly inhabited by the wealthy, and it was an extremely active area for matchmakers. Helping these rich merchants successfully negotiate a marriage would earn them several times more commission than assisting common people. At the entrance of the matchmaking agency, a matchmaker in purple, not much older than 60, with a head full of white hair, was about to close the red-painted door. A government notice had just been issued out of nowhere requiring a day of control, making it difficult to do business, and causing much irritation. Today, not a single marriage proposal was made, and I have to close the door. What a bad day. As the matchmaker in purple was mumbling, she glanced sideways and caught sight of a shadow in the corner of her eye. The shadow was clothed in a black long shirt. Although the material was not extravagant, it was spotless and exuded an indescribable grace. As the figure got closer, his appearance was clear, a handsome young master. The smile on his face was naturally relaxed. The way he moved revealed an air of gentle and elegant charm. This inner yet unconstrained aura made the experienced matchmaker in purple feel something was special about him. This was a big catch. This young master here appears to be very talented. Have you come to the matchmaking agency for the great matter of marriage? The matchmaker in purple's face was filled with a warm smile. Such a handsome young man would definitely be loved by many elegant young ladies. If she succeeded in making a match, wouldn't she make a fortune from the commission? She couldn't let such an opportunity pass by. Well, not in a hurry, let me take a look first. Zhao Huai rubbed his nose, putting up a calm, nonchalant appearance as if he were an experienced old hand. Even as a man who has lived 2 lives, blind dates remained an unexplored territory for him in both lives. Moreover, he was only here to lay low. How could he possibly go on a real blind date? Just have a casual look, and it will be over. Zhao Huai couldn't help but reassure himself. All right then. The matchmaker in purple smiled and invited Zhao Huai into the house, then closed the door behind her. Zhao Huai himself didn't know how he was invited to the table in the living room and then started flipping through the pages of the albums with portraits. Before he started looking, the matchmaker specifically asked about Zhao Huai's family situation. What is the condition of the young master's family so that I can explain a little further? Zhao Huai thought for a moment and gave a small estimate. 300 square meters of houses, 100 acres of farmland, carriages, and all, running a pawnshop business. The wealth of the family may not be over 10,000, but it must be more than enough in the thousands. Although he said so, in the mortal world, Zhao Huai's money should only be abundant, and just the gold, silver, and jewels in his warehouse could rival a wealthy merchant from the Two River regions. The main reason is that money in the mortal world is of no use if it's too much. It's enough to make ends meet. His primary goal is cultivation, so he doesn't put his heart into making money. It seems that the young master's conditions are still quite good. After hearing this, the matchmaker in purple secretly felt complacent. As she expected, she had an eye for talent, and the young master in front of her was indeed a big fish. Only then did she confidently point at the album and started introducing the pages one by one. Young master, look at this first one, a fine family background, wide hip bones, and plump figure. Children raised like this must be intelligent. Never mind that, too plump. Zhao Huai looked at the round cheeks in the picture and showed an apologetic smile. Then, how about this one? Big chest, tiny waist, prominent family, an elegant young lady with a wealthy father. There are many pursuers as well. Zhao Huai's finger rested on his chin, pondering, she looks too old. She must meet your requirements, master. She has long legs and a lifted buttocks, her father was once a provincial graduate, and now has an official position. An official? This is serious. Marrying her in, wouldn't that be setting a trap for himself? If he really had to choose, he wouldn't choose her, let alone just taking a look. Zhao Huai shook his head directly and gave the answer. I can't reach that high. Next, the matchmaker introduced more than a dozen different styles and family backgrounds of women, including their conditions, as well as their strengths and weaknesses. But they were all rejected by Zhao Huai for various reasons. Encountering a guest like Zhao Huai, a normal person would usually be discouraged and then show him an impatient expression. But this matchmaker was not discouraged at all. On the contrary, she was even more energetic and took out another large stack of albums, slapping them in front of Zhao Huai with a thud. There are so many? Zhao Huai was astonished. In a short period of time, he saw so many women that he became dizzy. He also gained new knowledge. It turned out that there were so many unmarried girls waiting to meet someone. It is said that in ancient times, the arranged marriages were mainly based on the words of matchmakers and the orders of parents, but in his view, the matchmaking agency is much better than parents' introductions. The matchmaker in purple explained with a smile, since the young master doesn't often visit, it's normal for him not to know. Besides the women, we also have corresponding albums for men. They have all been brought here by the elders of their families, all hoping to find the best candidate. So, the matchmaking agency has collected the list of unmarried men and women in Jianzhou and nearby states and counties, all just to help lovers find each other and find the best match. Often, there will be women or young masters with no appointment squatting here to flip through the albums, waiting for a destined person. When the timing is right, the matchmaking agency will send a matchmaker to notify the party and propose a marriage. Everything goes smoothly. Hearing that, Zhao Huai nodded slightly, having a deeper understanding of this profession. So, what kind of person does the young master prefer? So I can help you find a match. Seeing that she had introduced so many people and the young master was still indifferent, the matchmaker was somewhat helpless. But Zhao Huai was clearly here to pass the time and avoid misfortune. However, under the matchmaker's enthusiastic recommendation, he felt embarrassed. He was like those onlookers who only watched but didn't buy anything. Zhao Huai thought, why not just choose one to chat with casually and pass the afternoon? In the end, he can use the excuse of being unsuitable to brush it off. So, he gritted his teeth and pointed to a woman who was still passable and whispered. How about her? Looking at her with surprise, the matchmaker said, this one, although she has a pretty appearance and is a young girl, her conditions and character are not as good as the previous ones. She's just average. That's great, being too excellent would be difficult to refuse. Zhao Huai thought to himself. Then let's go with her. At the same time, in a courtyard of the matchmaking agency, cold light flickered, and sword shadows filled the sky. A woman inside was wielding a treasured sword, her moves sharp, ferocious, and decisive. The woman wore a white gauze skirt embroidered with plum blossoms, paired with a silver costume, resembling a cold plum in the snow that came to life, which gave her a cold and aloof atmosphere, making her seem like a beautiful woman with plum blossoms in her hair. General, the people investigating have blocked off the entire Jinzhou city. A beautiful maid bowed to the woman in front of her. The figure holding the sword stopped, revealing smooth black hair that flowed down her back, an exquisitely beautiful profile, and skin that was even whiter than snow, with a clean collarbone that looked as delicate as mutton fat. However, her sharp slanted eyes made people feel apprehensive at a glance. The woman's phoenix eyes narrowed slightly, and her red lips parted lightly. I wondered who it was, but it's just a sixth-rank commander of bodyguards, daring to cause trouble for the master of this palace. The beautiful maid nodded in agreement, also feeling resentful. Indeed, although the general has already retired, at least on the surface, she is still the first-rank princess personally appointed by His Majesty. How dare these lowly creatures be so presumptuous? If there were no one backing them, even if they had 10 times the courage, they wouldn't dare. Could it be King Qinghan? But he is your highness's elder brother. The woman held the sword in silence, her eyelashes trembled slightly, and upon hearing the maid's words, she seemed to remember something. Memories surged in her heart, her gaze dimmed, she retracted her sharpness, and sighed. Never mind, the father has ascended the throne, Xia country is just established, and the prosperous age has just begun. It's a busy time, so I won't cause trouble for him. Just investigate as much as possible without alerting anyone. Also, since I have retired, there's no need to call me general anymore. The woman turned her head and said calmly. By the way, have you found a suitable candidate? The beautiful maid nodded gently. We have found a young man who meets your highness's requirements, and he should be here this afternoon. The woman put down the sword, drained the tea on the table in one gulp and muttered to herself, to live in seclusion and marry a suitable husband is a way to give an account to my elder brother and father. Although I, Yu Qinghan, do not like to compete, I am not someone who can be manipulated. On the other side, Zhao Huai followed the matchmaker into an elegant room and slowly sat down. The matchmaker smiled and said, Young master, please wait a moment. I have already informed the young lady you wish to meet. Their elders have also agreed to meet after listening to your conditions. However, it will take some time, as the entire city is currently under lockdown, and it will take some effort to come here. Although the city was under control, powerful families still had special channels to use. Zhao Huai nodded slightly, expressing understanding. After the matchmaker finished explaining, she left, allowing peace to return to Zhao Huai's ears. At least the meeting was helpful, he wouldn't have to listen to the matchmaker's sales pitch anymore. However, he still had to think in advance about how to reject the young lady. After all, he was content cultivating on his own and had no time to take care of another person. Having some free time, Zhao Huai took out the golden bronze coin from his pocket and carefully examined it. The origin of this coin was quite mysterious. On the first day of his escape, exhausted, he slept in an old Taoist temple in the suburbs. The next day, when he woke up, he found a golden bronze coin in his arms. Even now, Zhao Huai still had a clear impression of the temple's furnishings in his mind. Over the past 3 years, he had revisited the site once, trying to discover the secret of the coin, but the old Taoist temple could never be found again. After thinking about it, Zhao Huai tossed the copper coin in his hand, trying to see if staying here would go as smoothly as he had imagined. Misfortune and fortune are intertwined, let's see. Hexagram 1, gentle and graceful lady, a good match for a gentleman, there is a marriage proposal in front of you. Whether you agree to accept her and marry her, the instruction you receive is misfortune. Hexagram 2, no women in the heart, naturally divine when drawing the sword, prepare to reject the proposal, the instruction you receive is fortune. It seems my choice is correct. Upon seeing the results, Zhao Huai showed a proud smile. Almost at the same time, a blue light flashed into his mind. Ever since I got Lucky Strike, the probability of triggering destiny has been really high. Zhao Huai couldn't help but sigh. So, This is the fate that emerged because he chose to remain chaste and not get married, right? Stable Taoist mind, superior black grade, maintains a clear and transparent state of mind, making it impossible for inner demons to breed. The cultivation speed of the primordial spirit and spiritual power is slightly increased. Would you like to absorb the fate? Absorb it. As soon as Zhao Huai spoke, a refreshing feeling instantly entered his brain, making his mind, consciousness, and awareness extremely clear. His sensitivity towards the surrounding grass, trees, and various inconspicuous breaths also improved. This is because his mental perception received the blessing of stable Taoist mind. This fate is useful for maintaining a Taoist mind, enhancing spiritual power, and dispelling the interference of inner demons. Not bad, it suits my current situation. Zhao Huai was very satisfied indeed. The Qi refining realm is about absorbing spiritual Qi from the universe, strengthening spiritual power, and improving the constitution by cleansing the marrow and changing the tendons. Although his current cultivation level was still one step away from the initiation stage and far from encountering inner demons, having this fate meant he was prepared for any eventuality. With stable Taoist mind, he now had 5 practical fates in total. Zhao Huai divided his fates into 3 categories according to their types. The first category was martial arts-oriented fates, such as light as a swallow, swordsmanship specialization, and stable Taoist mind, all of which fall into the realm of cultivation. The second category was flowing Qi-oriented fates, lucky strike, being one of them, which belonged to a newly developed type. The third category was backup fates, which were the fates Zhao Huai was most troubled with. These fates generally seemed rather insignificant, but it was unclear when they would come into effect. For instance, the dragon-seeking fate, aside from finding paths, it was really unclear what other purposes it served. However, it seemed a pity to break it down. Zhao Huai knew that the fates in his mind could be broken down. The purpose of breaking them down was naturally to enhance other fates, such as raising his yellow grade, swordsmanship specialization, from skilled swordsmanship. Knock knock. At this moment, there was a knock on the door outside the room. Come in. Zhao Huai spoke loudly. A young servant wearing short brown robes walked in, his hands clasped in front of him as he reported, "Young master, the old lady asked me to inform you that the person you were waiting for has arrived." Zhao Huai nodded, then asked another question, "Where is she now?" The young servant showed a helpless expression on his face and explained, "The officials have come to search the matter, and the old lady is stopping them, arguing with them." I see. Zhao Huai suddenly realized and understood the matchmaker's methods. If she let the imperial envoy in, wouldn't the matchmaking agency's business be ruined? Places like matchmaking agencies were also institutions set up by the government. It was no big deal if there were internal disputes, but common people would not dare to interfere. Soon, Zhao Huai followed the young servant through a courtyard filled with peach blossoms into a corridor with rooms on both sides, all of them with closed doors. There were 3 large characters written on the corridor plaque, "Peach Blossom World." "Young master, this is the place." The young servant gestured with his hand. "Go straight and enter the 3rd room on the turn, and make sure you don't get the wrong one, young master." "I understand." After giving the instructions, the young servant left. Zhao Huai walked to the end of the corridor, and another 2 rows of rooms appeared in front of him. His gaze landed on the 3rd wooden door. Zhao Huai pushed open the large door on the right, stepped into the partition, and lifted the bead curtain in front of him. What he saw was a folding screen with a picture of cold plums and a snowy scenery. In front of the screen were a pair of soft brocade chairs, accompanied by a square red wooden table. On the table was a set of glazed teacups, shimmering brightly. There was a faint but not pungent wisp of white smoke in the room. Zhao Huai looked down and saw that it was the gentle fragrance emitted by the incense burner. The plum blossom shadows on the wall flickered as a beautiful woman approached. Zhao Huai was slightly entranced by the faint fragrance at the tip of his nose. The folding screen of picture of cold plums and snowy scenery hid the face of the beauty, but a vague outline of a beautiful figure could be seen, far exceeding Zhao Huai's expectations. "The young master is here." A gentle magnetic voice rang, as charming as the song of the oriole. Hearing the voice, Zhao Huai came to his senses, pulled the door shut behind him, bowed his hands, and smiled. I am Zhao Huai, and I have seen the young lady. The little girl Qinghan has met the young master. The voice responded like this, standing up and slightly bowing her body, but contrary to Zhao Huai's expectation, this woman did not shy away from people behind the folding screen. Instead, she was very generous, standing straight up and walking out, even showing an inexplicable aura. As the beautiful figure walked out directly, a pair of imposing slanted eyes stared directly at Zhao Huai at the door. Even Zhao Huai had to admit that these eyes were indeed beautiful, with a strong aesthetic sense, radiant looks, and mesmerizing. The only strange thing was that Zhao Huai felt an invisible sense of oppression from her eyes. However, this did not affect her appearance, she was also very beautiful. The white long dress showed off her graceful figure, and her exquisite melon-seeded face was not elaborately made up, flawless like a piece of jade. She had lightly gathered cloud-like temples, delicate willow-like eyebrows, and cherry-like moist lips. Pure, elegant, and ethereal, just like a fairy who walked out of the painting scroll. Is she really my blind date? What happened to the average-looking girl I was told about? Zhao Huai's eyes were calm, but his heart was filled with doubt and surprise. He felt that this woman was much prettier than what he had seen in the painting album, and she didn't look like what he had expected, so he wondered if he had gotten the wrong door. Young Master Zhao, don't stand there, sit down first. The woman smiled faintly, seemingly seeing through Zhao Huai's thoughts, but still gestured with her hand, pouring a cup of hot tea for both of them. Let's introduce ourselves first. My name is Qinghan, and my last name is Yu. You Qinghan, miss you? Yes. Yu Qinghan nodded her head lightly, and then a faint smile emerged at the corner of her mouth. The young master seems puzzled. Zhao Huai shook his head, I'm not puzzled. I just feel that the young lady looks different from what I saw in the painting album. To him, who was sitting across from him didn't matter, because his purpose was just to spend a peaceful afternoon here. What's the difference? Curiosity appeared in Yu Qinghan's eyes. Zhao Huai smiled. Usually, when men and women meet each other, there are inevitably many ridiculous things happening. But the young lady looks much better than the painting album, which surprised me. Upon hearing this, the laughter deepened at the corner of Yu Qinghan's mouth, and then she said. I also feel that the young master looks different from what I had imagined, not like the person the matchmaker described. I originally thought the young master would be thin and weak, but I didn't expect his complexion to be so good, and his spirit to be much better than normal people. Her first impression of Zhao Huai was quite good, with a touch of goodwill. Of course, she knew she was beautiful, and she had seen countless people before. Without exception, their performances were all terrible. Normal men, when faced with her, either were frightened by her gaze or dared not look her in the eye, acting very coy, not like a man at all. Or they were some vulgar people who didn't know about manners, saw her as just a mere woman, and relied on their family background to repeatedly offend her. But the young master in front of her had clear eyes and could communicate and look at each other normally. Moreover, his conversation was quite extraordinary, and his appearance was not bad either. His sword-like eyebrows and star-like eyes made him quite handsome and very much to her liking. However, Yu Qinghan's words caught Zhao Huai's attention. He was acutely aware of his own situation. As a cultivator who had reached the 9th stage of refining qi, his complexion, vigor, and spirit were nothing short of excellent. At his current level, breaking boulders with his bare hands, scaling walls, and throwing punches weighing 1,000 pounds were a piece of cake, as his physical body had already reached an initial saturation point. However, the young lady's eyes were extraordinarily sharp, able to perceive such minor details, which implied that her own strength was not to be underestimated. I have some free time, so I practice some martial arts from the outer sect in the mornings to strengthen my body. That's why I'm in good shape, lied Zhao Huai, his face unfazed and his heart steady. Concealing one's cultivation was a form of self-protection. He didn't know the girl well and needed to be cautious in their first interactions. Oh? Young master is also interested in the path of cultivation? Qinghan's eyes flashed with surprise, her smile taking on a touch of genuine interest. Her smile now seemed more sincere than her previous, polite one, as if she had found a kindred spirit, much to her delight. Could it be that Miss also practices martial arts? Jiao Huai asked back, attempting to sound polite yet not overly awkward. Yes, I've been cultivating and following my father in the army since I was young, over a decade now, Qinghan revealed with a soft smile. I forgot to mention, my father was an esteemed general back in the day. He's retired now due to a mistake he made, but my family is still considered of military background. Practicing martial arts has been a tradition for generations, and my elder brother is currently serving in the army. After she finished speaking, there was a faint worry in the depths of her eyes. As Qinghan had expected, upon hearing this, Jiao Huai's heart jumped and he inwardly cursed. With a father who was a general and an elder brother actively serving, coming from a long line of martial artists, wasn't her family the epitome of a military family? The girl was none other than a scion of a prestigious military family, no small matter indeed. Would it be appropriate for someone with his background to interact with such a person? Jiao Huai wondered. Nonetheless, he joked, with your background, miss, it's hard to imagine you turning to a matchmaking agency. I snuck out, she confided, her gaze dimming. Snuck out? Jiao Huai was slightly taken aback by her response. Were your family unkind to you? In a world where the pursuit of immortality was paramount, nobles and gentry were still surrounded by luxury, wealth, and privilege. They certainly didn't lead a rough life. Not at all. I'm just tired of the life at home and all the competition, Qinghan shook her head. Jiao Huai gave a bitter smile but didn't respond. Her eyelashes trembled as she brought up memories with a sigh, speaking as if to herself, young master, do you know that I disliked practicing martial arts when I was younger? Just like other girls, I was fond of cosmetics like rouge and powder, I enjoyed fiddling with embroidery needles and threads, and I loved listening to storytellers narrate tales of growing old together and idyllic lives. Those were my fantasies. However, my father told me that being born into our family, I too had a responsibility to bear. Even as a girl, I should strive for greatness and follow in those footsteps. The ordinary lives of common people were not meant for me. From that day on, I began my martial arts cultivation. I initially disliked martial arts, for it was a bitter and tiring pursuit. I also hated killing. At night, I often had nightmares and struggled to sleep. Sometimes, I would think about how wonderful it'd be if I wasn't born into such a family. Every day, I would sleep until noon, spend my afternoons listening to music and strolling the streets, read books, watch interesting plays, and eat whatever I fancied. Simple dishes wouldn't bother me, and even if I were completely alone or poverty-stricken, it would be better than exhausting myself on the battlefield. As I grew older and eventually achieved the goals my father set for me, I realized that what he wanted was not what I desired. By that time, my hands had been stained with too much blood, and my martial arts cultivation had become inseparable from my life and habits. Now, I'm tired. All I want is to find someone to live a peaceful life with. So, I ran away, Qinghan concluded, her voice getting smaller and the reminiscence in her eyes lingering for a long while. The air was silent for quite a while. Qinghan apologized with a guilty expression, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said any of this. I was too talkative, and I made a fool of myself in front of you. Having just met, her behavior might indeed seem strange to others. It's okay, it's my fault for asking, Jiao Huai replied. After listening to Qinghan's story, Jiao Huai couldn't help showing some sympathy in his eyes. Now he knew where the strangeness about this woman came from. Having killed people before, no wonder her gaze was as sharp as a knife, and her mentality had long been different from ordinary people's. But he was not one to comfort her because, since she was able to talk about it, it meant she had already come to terms with it. And all he could do was to listen quietly, without expecting anything more. Everyone had enough trouble in their lives, why bother worrying about others as well? Young master, aren't you afraid of me? Qinghan asked, surprised by Jiao Huai's demeanor. Her story, though half true and half false, still shared a similar overall trajectory. Yet upon hearing it, the man seemed not afraid at all. Wouldn't normal people be frightened when they learned someone had killed? Not afraid, Zhao Huai shook his head. Miss Yu's open-mindedness surpasses others, he added. Yu Qinghan's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise, and she smiled. Your words are indeed unexpected, young master. It seems you, too, have a story, young master, she remarked. But Zhao Huai seemed not to hear and remained silent. In all fairness, Yu Qinghan had a good personality and was easy to talk to. If he could disregard her background as a general's daughter, marrying such a beautiful woman would be a blessing. If the outcome with the copper coin had been good, perhaps he would have considered spending more time with her. Having thought it through, Zhao Huai took a deep breath and made his decision, calmly saying, Miss Yu, I think we should not. Suddenly, a loud bang came from outside the house, interrupting everything. Military officer, we really can't go in. We haven't had any business today. The whole city must be searched, and your matchmaking agency is no exception. Immediately after, the two exchanged glances. Zhao Huai quickly realized that the search party had arrived. For a moment, his brow furrowed involuntarily. Don't worry, I'll take action, Yu Qinghan reassured him, seeing his expression. The source of the noise was from the corridor outside the house. The small courtyard gate had been blown open, and the young servant, looking terrified, squatted by the door, staring at the entrance. Now, the peach-tree-lined corridor, which once symbolized love, was filled with uninvited guests. Rows of soldiers wearing fish-scale armor and stainless steel long broadswords came in at a trot, their armors emitting crisp rustle sounds. They divided into two lines, and there seemed to be more than 10 of them. In the lead was a man in a green martial robe, with a fierce expression, dark skin, and a sturdy build. Clearly, he was the commander of these soldiers. Standing opposite him was the matchmaker who had just served Zhao Huai. At this moment, the matchmaker wore a distressed expression, pleading earnestly, Sir, our matchmaking agency is a government-managed institution. How could we harbor any criminals? The commander coldly responded, We have a search warrant, and we're following orders. How dare you block my men? You must have a death wish. If you delay our mission, even 10 heads won't be enough for you. Guards. The next second, the commander gave a cold order. Search. Make sure to find the person Qinghan is looking for. Receiving the order, the soldiers dispersed and headed toward the main gate. For a moment, the entire courtyard was in chaos. There hadn't been many people at the matchmaking agency today, and now they were all being driven out. Everyone, like little chicks, was carried out, their faces filled with anxiety and fear. People who don't know might think this is a brothel. Bang! Suddenly, a loud noise came, and a soldier flew out of the room, hitting the wall hard. The cracks on the wall were like a spider web, shattering in all directions. A figure in white clothes with plum embroidery slowly walked out. At the same time, an elegant young master was behind the woman. Such strong power. Zhao Huai looked at the scene in front of him, his expression extremely astonished. Then, his gaze fixed on Yu Qinghan's body. At first, he thought that the strength mentioned by this lady was at most the peak of the outer sex martial arts practice, reaching only the first stage of refining qi. Unexpectedly, he had underestimated it. With this palm strike, it was at least at the level of the third stage of the refining qi and possibly even higher. Strange, didn't the hexagram predict fortune? How did it still happen? Zhao Huai saw the commander and others coming, wondering if there was a problem with the result of the copper coin, or if he had done something to change the outcome. He could take a shot and settle everyone in a single breath. However, this would undoubtedly expose his whereabouts and attract the attention of the Xia dynasty government once again. As the commander at the front saw Yu Qinghan's move, his face looked ugly, but there was also a trace of shock in his eyes. The true qi fluctuations remaining in the air were much more terrifying than his initial entry into the first stage of refining qi. Where on earth did this person come from? Are you the one sent by the top? Yu Qinghan's voice was very cold, and she asked with narrowed eyes. At this moment, her eyes were filled with murderous intent, her momentum domineering and sharp-edged. It seemed as if she had changed into a completely different person, contrasting sharply with her gentleness in the room just now. Although the commander was afraid, he still gritted his teeth and said, "Yes, we are here on orders to capture the rebel." "Who are you?" Hearing this, Yu Qinghan sneered, "Just a mere centurion, without any knowledge or background, don't get involved in this dirty water. You might be used as a pawn without even realizing it." After speaking, Yu Qinghan threw out a jade token. The commander took the token, glanced at it, and his hands trembled. His eyes widened in shock as he pointed at Yu Qinghan and said, "You are." In the commander's heart, the level of this token was too high. He had only heard that in the army, as long as it was seen, it was an absolute iron order. "Get lost now." Yu Qinghan scolded sharply, interrupting the other party. "I apologize for my rudeness." The leading commander respectfully saluted Yu Qinghan, with no dissatisfaction on his face. He then led the soldiers behind him to leave quickly. Zhao Huai was also surprised by this scene. It seemed that the force behind Yu Qinghan was quite significant. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to scare off the searching soldiers. At this moment, Zhao Huai understood why the result of the copper coin divination was fortune. With Yu Qinghan's background, he could get through this round of search safely. Did the people just now come from her family? Or perhaps they were the subordinates of someone she knew. Actually, the result of the copper coin was not wrong, he had just jumped to conclusions too early. "Miss, your background is indeed extraordinary." Zhao Huai stood behind Yu Qinghan, pretending to be amazed. "It's all just some troublesome matters. I've embarrassed myself in front of you, young master." Yu Qinghan withdrew her aura and gave Zhao Huai a slight smile. "This is..." The matchmaker on the side was shocked by what had just happened. Compared to Zhao Huai, she was even more confused. "Thanks to your introduction of Miss Yu, otherwise this time, it would have been more bad luck than good." Zhao Huai smiled as he said this. "It was Miss Yu? Miss Yu? I remember that I found a girl with the surname Liu for the young master." The matchmaker was a bit puzzled. "Surname Liu?" Upon hearing the matchmaker's words, Zhao Huai was stunned, as if he had realized something. At this moment, among the crowd in the courtyard, a young girl stepped forward and pointed at Zhao Huai, saying in surprise, "Grandma, is he the one you wanted me to wait for? I've been waiting for a long time and haven't seen anyone." Zhao Huai furrowed his brow, "But I did enter the third room." At this point, he understood. He had entered the wrong room and met the wrong person. The matchmaker, whose face was covered in cold sweat, quickly called a young servant beside her and angrily asked, "Xiaojiu, what's going on? Didn't I say it was the third room?" The young servant shrank his neck, fear on his face, and stuttered, "I did inform them that it was the third room." Zhao Huai asked, "Is it the third one on the right?" "Yes." The young servant nodded. The beautiful woman then explained. "At first I went to the right, but when I saw people there, I went to the left instead." So that's how it happened. Zhao Huai suddenly realized how the misunderstanding had occurred. Yu Qinghan had occupied the spot early, causing him to go to the wrong place. "Miss Yu, young Master Zhao, and everyone else, I'm really sorry. It's all my fault for not making the arrangements well." The elderly matchmaker's face showed worry as she bowed apologetically to Zhao Huai, Yu Qinghan, and the others around her. "Never mind, it seems that today is not suitable to find a suitor." The beautiful woman sighed and then turned and left. The matchmaker, seeing that the other party did not hold a grudge, breathed a sigh of relief and looked at Yu Qinghan again. This one seemed to have an even more important background. The matchmaker hurriedly said, "Miss Yu, I'll arrange it for you right away." Who would have thought that Yu Qinghan gave a gentle smile, shook her head, and said, "It doesn't matter. I think young Master Zhao is a very good person. By chance, I feel that he is more suitable for marriage." Her words left Zhao Huai slightly taken aback. What did she mean by more suitable for marriage? Did she have her eyes on him? It hadn't been long since they first met, this was too fast. Young Master Zhao, what do you think? Seeing Qinghan's unexpected reaction, the matchmaker couldn't help but ask excitedly. This Miss Yu could also be considered a regular customer at the matchmaking agency. She not only had a beautiful appearance, generous disposition, kind and polite demeanor, but she also had a good background, making her an ideal partner. However, her demands were rather high, and none of her previous suitors had pleased her. But unexpectedly, today's accidental encounter seemed to be a success. As long as young Master Zhao agrees, this marriage can be preliminarily settled. The matchmaker added another sentence. Well. Zhao Huai looked at Qinghan's enchanting eyes, feeling quite conflicted. If it weren't for the copper coin result, he might not have been able to resist agreeing, even though they hadn't known each other for long. Young Master Zhao, give a definite answer. Miss Yu is heartbroken waiting. The impatient matchmaker walked up to Zhao Huai. With such good conditions, how could you refuse? Is this what a man should do? At this moment, the matchmaker was like an ant on a hot pot, extremely anxious. If she succeeded in this deal, there would be a lot of silver waiting for her. Zhao Huai sighed lightly and said, I think that Miss Yu and we are not suitable. Upon hearing this, the matchmaker's face showed an incredulous expression, and even the young servant beside her looked astonished. Why? Qinghan's expression remained unchanged as she took a step forward and asked earnestly. Young master, why won't you marry me? Zhao Huai calmly replied, Miss Yu comes from a military family, I'm not worthy. Qinghan replied earnestly, that's no reason. I've already told you, I've left my family behind and am no longer of a noble lady's status. But can you guarantee that they won't come looking for you? I seek a peaceful and quiet life, and your lifestyle is contrary to mine. Zhao Huai raised this point very seriously. I can. What I'm pursuing is just an ordinary and peaceful life. Qinghan's eyes were full of determination, and her tone was extremely resolute. Miss Yu. Zhao Huai was moved by her unwavering tone and hesitated for a moment. When in doubt, let's toss a copper coin. Unable to find a solution, Zhao Huai decided to use a copper coin to make a decision. He tightly held the copper coin in his hand, and a series of words appeared in his mind. Misfortune and fortune depend on each other, let's see. None of them can be obtained without seeking it, countless hexagrams all come from one's own heart. Hexagram 1, the shining star of martial arts, there is a marriage proposal in front of you. Whether to accept it and marry her, the indication you get is fortune. What? It's actually fortune? Zhao Huai was very puzzled. The previous divination result was clearly misfortune. After pondering for a moment, Zhao Huai suddenly thought of something. Could it be that this marriage proposal is not the same as the previous one? It turned out that the person he was supposed to meet was different from Qinghan, so the result was different. In other words, marrying Qinghan would lead to fortune, while marrying the previous one would result in misfortune. Upon knowing this, Zhao Huai finally breathed a sigh of relief. At this moment, everyone was waiting for his answer. Zhao Huai turned his head, looked into Qinghan's beautiful eyes, and asked very solemnly, Miss Yu, are you sure about this? Of course, I've made up my mind. As soon as Qinghan heard Zhao Huai's words, she seemed to know his answer and decisively responded. In that case, let's set the wedding date for this month. Seeing Zhao Huai finally agreed, the matchmaker let out a sigh of relief, her face showing a relaxed expression. She said with a grin. You two go home and make preparations. Inform your family's elders. In 3 days, you can get married. Qinghan and Zhao Huai exchanged glances again with tacit understanding, and then quickly separated. No problem. Zhao Huai replied. Same for me. Qinghan responded as well. At that moment, a deep purple ray of light quickly streaked through the air and entered Zhao Huai's mind. As the crowd dispersed, Zhao Huai and Qinghan agreed to see each other again on their wedding day. Wearing a white dress, Qinghan returned to her room. After glancing at the maid next to the door, Qinghan slowly sat down, poured herself a cup of tea, and asked, "How did it go?" The tall maid, who had been waiting for a long time, respectfully performed a salute and said reverently, "My princess, I have found out that the search in Jianzhou was secretly arranged by King Qin. He bribed officials in Jianzhou and other large cities in the coastal region, apparently in order to find your whereabouts." Qinghan's face was as cold as frost, and her tone was icy cold. "My dear brother, in order to fight for power, he is really desperate. He's already targeting me after such a short time. So, what should we do?" The tall maid asked for instructions. "Sow confusion so that he doesn't disturb my life and doesn't come to Jianzhou." Qinghan finished her tea with a calm expression. "Yes." After receiving the order, the tall maid asked curiously, "Princess, did you really tell young Master Zhao everything?" Qinghan shook her head. "No, I was afraid he couldn't accept it, so I changed things a little. The overall story is the same. I told him I come from a military aristocratic family, and he only barely accepted it. It was just to prevent unexpected scenarios in the future and cover up." "But why did your highness choose him?" The tall maid's expression was full of questions. Although the princess didn't have high requirements, she just wanted someone to live her life with. None of the previous candidates were satisfactory. But this one suddenly made the cut. Qinghan took a deep breath, recalling Zhao Huai's gentle smile. The cold aura on her face disappeared, replaced by a faint smile. "I don't know, maybe we just hit it off. Being with him, even talking, feels really comfortable." The tall maid covered her mouth and laughed. "Your highness dares to marry, and young Master Zhao dares to accept. It's truly a match made in heaven." At this moment, Zhao Huai was on his way back to the shop. After a whole afternoon, the search finally ended, and the shops on the street had reopened. Zhao Huai looked at the words that appeared before him. Turn adversity into good fortune, change disaster into blessings, and prosper in destiny. It meant that the marriage he had just agreed to somehow triggered the ability to turn disaster into blessings, so he would receive even better rewards. That's why he got the purple light. Zhao Huai carefully examined it. Heavenly Heart Wisdom Eyes, lower grade of heavenly level, the powerful destiny grants you extraordinary comprehension talent. Whether it's divine skills, magic, mental techniques, or cultivation techniques, you can master them just by looking. When he saw this purple heavenly grade destiny, Zhao Huai was completely stunned. In just one day, he had received several destinies, especially the Earth grade, Lucky Strike, which he thought was more than enough. However, he didn't expect such an unexpected surprise. Bright, deep purple light filled his mind, looking extremely dignified and elegant. Would you like to absorb it? As long as he absorbed this destiny, he could quickly master any cultivation technique and become proficient in it. Zhao Huai's mood was undoubtedly very excited. Let's absorb it right away. As soon as Zhao Huai finished speaking, the purple light burst forth. A warm, scorching sensation surged up, enveloping his entire body. Unconsciously, Zhao Huai felt that many of the problems he encountered while practicing swordsmanship, boxing, and other techniques were easily resolved, and the forgotten contents of those techniques were remembered, never to be forgotten again. This feeling was like eating a memory bread. The difference was that in addition to the original knowledge, there was a great extension, as if it would automatically think. This was a huge boost to the understanding of the martial path, a real qualitative leap. Zhao Huai couldn't help but mutter, "This, Heavenly Heart Wisdom Eyes, is really worthy of being a heavenly grade destiny, it's so powerful. I feel that the swordsmanship I learned a year ago is like a three-legged cat's skill, the same as a roadside stall technique, extremely simple and easy to understand. It only took me half a year to learn it before, but now that I've just studied it a little, I've already understood it thoroughly." The value of a heavenly grade destiny. Zhao Huai would have preferred a few more destinies like this. Unfortunately, such a destiny was extremely difficult to obtain, and this time it was only because he had triggered the turn misfortune into blessings effect, which granted him an enhanced chance, otherwise it would have been impossible to obtain. Somewhere deep down, Zhao Huai felt that the destiny he had obtained was somehow related to the prophecy he had made. But for now, he couldn't figure out the pattern. In a short while, he passed through the broad and narrow alley, walked down Yangqing Street, and returned to Huai's pawnshop. Arriving at the back door, he took out the key and aimed it at the lockhole. Just about to insert it, his hand stopped at the entrance, suspended in midair. Because he spotted something unusual. When he locked the door as he left, a wisp of lime powder fell on the doorstep. Why was it gone now? Zhao Huai's eyes turned, he put away the key, squatted down, and examined the carpet under his feet. He gently lifted a corner to check the situation below. On the floor covered with lime powder, there were 4 large footprints. Somebody had been here. Zhao Huai's eyes narrowed slightly, revealing an extremely dangerous look. 4 footprints, 2 people. Someone was targeting him. Based on the skill required to enter the door, they were not ordinary people. Could it be someone sent by the imperial court? But that was impossible. He had never experienced such treatment in the 3 years he could recall. No matter what, today's sword might be stained with blood. Zhao Huai covered the carpet at the entrance, his body leaped like a dragonfly skimming the water and stepped on the railing outside the house, performing his lightness skill to fly to the roof. Finally, he landed on a tile, making no noise throughout the entire process. He went to the corner of the eaves and pulled up a hidden thin rope from the gravel, pulled it hard, and a window large enough for a person to pass through appeared in the seamless roof. This was originally his escape route, but he never thought that one day he would enter his house through it. Zhao Huai entered through the window by himself, landing smoothly and silently. Before his eyes was his bedroom. Inside, there was no light, it was very dark. Zhao Huai's gaze was sharp as he searched for the 2 people's silhouettes. His cultivation had reached the 9th stage of refining qi, and his flesh body had been tempered to its current peak. With every breath, he could exquisitely control even his footsteps. If he wanted, he could move without making a sound. Zhao Huai was like a ghost walking in the dark, making no noise as he moved. Huai's pawnshop was located on the east side of the busy streets, with 3 floors in total. The first floor was the pawnshop's facade, the second floor was a warehouse and storage area, and the third floor was the living quarters, the bedrooms. Decorating it had cost him 600 ingots of gold. Zhao Huai knew that the best hiding place was the warehouse. A sharp treasured sword appeared from the black ring, and with the sword in hand, Zhao Huai emotionlessly made his way to the warehouse. Did you hear any movement? No, the search has been over for so long now. He should have returned by now. That this kid can chat with that person so happily is enough to prove his importance. We must capture him and take him back. This mission is too important, we can't afford any leaks or screw-ups. From within the warehouse came the voices of the 2 men talking. The 2 masked men crouched on the roof beams, looking straight down, still waiting for the target to appear. Suddenly, a flash of white light streaked by in front of them. Clang! The 2 men couldn't even see what it was, they only felt a chill running up their spine. An extremely fast sword strike had blinded the 2 masked men for an instant. One man's chest had been pierced, and his heart shattered by the sword's true qi. With burning hot blood gushing out, the other masked man only then realized what had happened and frantically tried to counterattack. A shadow appeared in midair, striking down with a palm, and the powerful force directly knocked him down. With a thud, he fell from the roof beam. One of them had already lost any sign of life. The other black-clothed man looked up in fear, trying to make out the face of the person who had come. The strength of these 2 men was far from weak, today they had met such a ruthless character. With a ding, a beautiful treasured sword fell from the sky, nailing the man's palm to the ground, leaving him unable to get up. Zhao Huai pressed down on the sword, towering over him, and coldly asked. Speak. Who sent you here? He had already sensed the 2 men's presence outside the house. The cultivations of these 2 assassins had actually reached the 3rd stage of refining qi, which was quite rare. That's why he had held back on that palm strike, not killing the other party, but intending to question the mastermind behind the scenes. Damn. I didn't expect to miscalculate. You're actually a hidden cultivator. The black-clothed man nailed to the ground had a resentful look in his eyes. Answer my question. Jiao Huai exerted more force on the sword, his gaze ice-cold. Ah. The black-clothed man screamed, gritted his teeth, and coldly laughed. You wish. He then closed his mouth, his eyes resolute. Not good. By the time Jiao Huai realized it, it was already too late. Black blood flowed from the black-clothed man's mouth. This black-clothed man had already taken poison to commit suicide. Jiao Huai looked at the two corpses and the bloodstains on the ground, his face unspeakably gloomy. He bent down and searched the two men's clothes. From the first black-clothed man, he found a token. At dusk, as the sky grew darker, most of the merchants on the street had already closed their stalls, and many night markets were preparing to entertain their night business. In Huai's pawnshop. After cleaning up the bloodstains on the ground, Jiao Huai moved the two corpses to the backyard. He then skillfully took out the golden bronze coins from his waist, threw them into the air, pressed them on his hand, and began checking the results. Misfortune and blessings depend on one another, let's see. Hexagram 1, dispose of the corpses and erase the traces. Bury them under the tree, and all troubles will be gone. The hint you get is blessing. Hexagram 2, be clear and insightful. Investigate the corpses and trace the origins of the incident. The hint you get is misfortune. Hexagram 3, killers must shed blood, and weeds must be uprooted. Report to the government office. The hint you get is misfortune. This time, Jiao Huai was not satisfied with the blessing result. Because the black-robed men's superiors would definitely investigate, he had to find the most secure way to handle the situation. So he tossed the golden bronze coins again and again, hoping for more results. Once, twice, 3 times. Jiao Huai didn't know how many times he had tossed, but the results were mostly similar. Either he was to dispose of the bodies secretly, or seek help from other forces. But during the process, a white light suddenly appeared. However, Jiao Huai's expression did not change. Because he was too familiar with this light. It represented the human grade destiny, the lowest grade of destiny, and the most common one he had seen in the past 3 years. So he didn't hold any hope for it. Immortal's guidance, human grade excellent, a crude trick of the rivers and lakes, mastering the initial art of divination and reciting I Ching skillfully. As expected, the human grade destiny never disappoints, it has always been disappointing in the same way. If he could really know what would happen next, it would be fine. However, it was just a trick of the rivers and lake swindlers, no different from those who deceive with their boxing skills. But Jiao Huai started to think about the destiny of Immortal's guidance. Logically speaking, since this destiny could be activated, it must have its uses. Even if it is the so-called absolutely useless human grade destiny, would it be useful after upgrading to yellow grade? Thinking about this, Jiao Huai couldn't help but give it a try. In order to upgrade the destiny's grade, other destinies need to be merged. When low-level destinies upgrade high-level destinies, the speed is very limited. However, when high-level destinies upgrade low-level destinies, the speed is immediate. Jiao Huai immediately found the unused, dragon-seeking, yellow-grade destiny in his mind. This destiny was useless to him, so he decided to give it a try. Would you like to decompose destiny? Decompose. Jiao Huai directly decomposed the dragon-seeking destiny in his mind, turning it into countless dots. Then he had these dots all absorbed by Immortal's path guidance. The white light immediately dimmed, and in its place, a yellow light bloomed from the center. Trace origins, yellow grade average, trace the origins of events to happen, and you can trace some of the results of misfortune and blessings. Trace the partial results of misfortune and blessings? What does it mean? Jiao Huai muttered to himself, then firmly decided. Never mind, I'll know when I try. Misfortune and blessings depend on one another, let's see. Hexagram 1, dispose of the corpses and erase the traces. Bury them under the tree, and all troubles will be gone. The hint you get is blessing. Trace guidance. The killers acted independently, burying under a tree, putting all troubles to rest. Hexagram 2, be clear and insightful. Investigate the corpses and trace the origins of the incident. The hint you get is misfortune. Trace guidance. Investigating will bring trouble. Hexagram 3, killers must shed blood, and weeds must be uprooted. Report to the government office. The hint you get is misfortune. Trace guidance. The government is as a chessboard. It seems that the two assassins acted independently before, no wonder no one could find out if they were buried. After reading the latest results, Jiao Huai felt quite satisfied. This, trace origins, destiny was like an upgrade to the golden bronze coins technique. Before, lucky strike, increased the probability of destinies, allowing him to change misfortune and blessings once a day. With trace origins, his judgments became more supported. The combination of the two makes it almost perfect. This also made his goal of becoming an immortal even more determined. In this world full of crises, the internal strife of Xia country was far from over. The traces of demons and monsters could be seen everywhere among the people. Bordering alien tribes took advantage of Xia country's rest and recuperation to annex many small countries nearby, always staring, waiting for the right moment to strike. They did not know when a crisis would erupt. When chaos arrives, lives would be as insignificant as straw. Only by becoming an immortal can one survive. As long as he can upgrade his destiny to the immortal grade and obtain an invincible destiny, he will be invincible in the world. Once he had buried the two corpses under the tree, Jiao Huai finally breathed a sigh of relief. He returned to the shop, poured a cup of tea, and took a sip. He then took out a token. This token was found on the bodies of the black-robed men. On it was a large letter engraved with gold. This seemed to be a token for colleagues to travel between cities, allowing people to pass through without any obstacles, crossing all city walls without being intercepted by anyone. It was very similar to the Emperor's imperial envoy. For him, this thing was quite useful. However, this also showed that the forces behind the black-robed men were extremely powerful since they could carry such a thing around. As for the purpose of the black-robed men, Jiao Huai did have some guesses. From their conversation, it seemed that they wanted to use him to threaten someone. Who was that person? The next second, Qinghan's face flashed across Jiao Huai's mind. The only person he had recently interacted with was her. Maybe it was Qinghan's enemy who got wind of her whereabouts and tried to assassinate her. When they found they could not beat her, they came after him, plotting against him. In the end, they were killed by him. Upon reflection, the logic seemed quite reasonable. To be honest, forming a marriage alliance with Qinghan had another consideration. He could make use of Qinghan's connections to learn some inside information about the happenings in the world and in the imperial court. Her family was an aristocratic military family, so they must have access to a lot of information. Maybe he could even gain some benefits from it. However, as they would be husband and wife in the future, would it be inappropriate to engage in such schemes? After thinking about it for a while, Jiao Huai decided not to think about it anymore. After all, as long as he was strong, he had nothing to fear. As long as he reached the initiation stage, he would have officially entered the path of immortal cultivation. By then, there would be very few people who could pose a challenge to him. Lounging in the Taisher chair, with nothing to do, Jiao Huai took out the black ring and started to study it. He took out the stack of thick parchments and a bottle of pills, and began to study them carefully. Jiao Huai spread out the parchment and scanned it. In his mind, the heavenly heart wisdom eyes, destiny started to run slowly. The obscure ancient characters on the parchment turned into a row of symbols and recombined. In the end, they appeared before Jiao Huai. This is. Seeing the clear text in front of him, Jiao Huai seemed somewhat surprised. He had flipped through this parchment roll before, but he couldn't read it at all, so he gave up on trying. Now, with the heavenly heart wisdom eyes, talent added, the obscure characters in the scroll became much simpler. 3000, Thunderbolt technique? Jiao Huai looked at the first line of the parchment, slowly reciting it. The densely packed tadpole-like text could easily be misread if one didn't pay close attention. Fortunately, Zhao Huai had the stable Taoist mind supporting him, with a calm, clear and stronger spiritual power. Therefore, he could read the content inside the parchment without any obstructions, even with an invisible protective power present. After an hour of reading, Zhao Huai got a preliminary understanding of what the 3000 Thunderbolt technique was all about. It turned out to be a textbook teaching the art of creating talisman inscriptions, specializing in thunder talisman inscriptions. It can be said that the types of thunder talisman inscriptions in it are all-encompassing, covering all aspects. For instance, there are top-level talismans specifically designed for large-scale demon extermination, such as the 9th Heaven Hell Thunder Talisman, Alarmed Destruction Thunder Talisman, 10,000 Thunder Roar Talisman. For warding off evil talismans, there's Universe Thunder Suppressing Talisman, Blackwood Thunder Talisman, Dragon Thunder Reversing Talisman. There are also some more basic incantations, such as 5 Elements Thunder Talisman, Yin Yang Thunder Talisman, 5 Thunder Execution, and so on. Zhao Huai was dazzled by all the information. He became increasingly curious about the owner of the Black Ring. The 3000 Thunderbolt technique was indeed a good find, as was the unknown treasured sword, and the pill he received. All these had been a great help to him thus far, and he could only be grateful. That person must have been a powerful figure in an immortal cultivation sect, otherwise, they wouldn't have these magical items. This black ring also served as a storage ring, which was quite useful for Zhao Huai to carry some things with him. Zhao Huai was quite yearning for the immortal cultivation sects. But if they could join a sect to cultivate, who would open a little pawnshop and practice cultivation alone? When he settled down in the south in his first year, he visited those so-called immortal sects, but none of them were willing to accept him. On the one hand, he was too old to join a sect at 20, their cultivation was considered too late. They believed that even a late maturer would have to reach refining qi to perfection by their 50s, which was too slow. The other reason was that they all said his spiritual roots were too poor and his potential too limited. They estimated that he could only reach the initiation stage at most, and he was not worth nurturing. From that day on, Zhao Huai's mentality became more relaxed. Well, there were so many rules for cultivating immortality, and it was better for him to upgrade his destiny by himself instead of joining a sect and being mistreated. It really brought bad luck. At first, his cultivation speed was indeed very slow, reaching the peak of the outer sect martial arts, but the efficiency of refining qi only reached the second or third stage. This level was at most equivalent to the bodyguards escorted among the common people, and it was passable for running a children's martial arts school. Willing to cultivate immortality? Are you kidding? Keep dreaming. No one would have expected that the mysterious destiny, diligent reader, Zhao Huai had obtained unintentionally would increase his cultivation speed by 3 times. His realm's advancement speed also rose steadily. In just 1 year, all he had to do was sleep in, water the flowers, listen to music and watch beautiful tofu sellers. With casual training, his cultivation quickly reached the 9th stage of refining qi. These days were wonderful, but Zhao Huai found another problem. The immortal cultivation sect was right, his potential was indeed low. He had been at the 9th stage of refining qi for a long time, but he still hadn't broken through to the initiation stage. He felt that he needed an initiation pill. With it, his progress should be much more efficient. However, initiation pills were hard to buy in the market, as they had a lot of demand but were scarcely available. Ordinary people without strong backing couldn't even buy one. Maybe he could rely on the remaining pills he had? Zhao Huai decided in his heart that he would test what kind of pill was in the bottle in a few days. Although he was thinking about it in his mind, Zhao Huai's hands were not idle. After reading the 3000 Thunderbolt technique once, he had already memorized the contents in his mind. Next came the practical application, transforming the knowledge of talisman inscriptions in his mind into real usable talisman inscriptions. Zhao Huai took out a stack of blank yellow paper and sketched on it with a brush according to the memories in his mind. It seemed simple in his mind, but once he started drawing, he realized that these bizarre symbols were truly difficult to draw, especially the top-level inscriptions. He couldn't draw them at all, which required incredibly strong spiritual power. So, Zhao Huai decided to start with the simplest ones. The Fire Thunder Talisman, one of the most basic 5 elements thunder talismans. Fire Thunder Talisman, the demon expelling fire, the object attracting thunder, using Thundershocked wood as the base, the cinnabar pen for inscription, the combination of the two complement each other, forming a basic thunder talisman. The requirements are quite high. Thundershocked wood can ward off evil and it's not cheap, it costs 10 taels of silver on the market. Zhao Huai was slightly surprised. He didn't expect that drawing thunder talismans would be such an expensive endeavor, and the cost of materials involved would be too much for ordinary people to afford. From this, he concluded that cultivating immortality was indeed an activity that sucked up money. But it's alright, he had plenty of money. After preparing the materials and numerous attempts and failures, Zhao Huai quickly drew his first thunder talisman. His martial talent was now incredibly high, no matter how difficult the cultivation techniques, heart techniques, or skills were, he could learn them quickly. In the end, he had to thank the heavenly heart wisdom eyes. Zhao Huai picked up the newly drawn thunder talisman, just about to test the power of the fire thunder talisman. But there was a knock on the door outside. Knock, knock. The knocking was light, and the rhythm was slow. Hearing it, Zhao Huai couldn't help but be curious. Who would come looking for him at this hour, when the sky was already dark? Although his relationship with the neighbors near and far was not bad, there was no one who would come knocking at this time. Outside the window, dusk had fallen, lanterns were lit in front of the shops, and the busy streets filled with the smells of various steaming snacks. The night market was bustling. Zhao Huai went to the door, opened the bolt, and quickly opened the door. But upon opening the door, the person he saw made him dumbfounded. A beautiful lady was standing at the door, smiling at him. With a small wooden food box in her hands, Qinghan was wearing an elegant long dress, a smile on her lips, and her slanted eyes narrowed into a gap. "Miss Yu, what brings you here?" Zhao Huai rubbed his eyes, unable to believe his own eyes, and asked incredulously. They had previously agreed to meet on the day of their marriage. He didn't expect that after an afternoon, it wouldn't be long before she arrived, bringing her luggage. What was she up to? "Young master, have you had dinner yet?" Qinghan blinked her beautiful big eyes, expectantly. Not yet." Zhao Huai touched the back of his head, feeling embarrassed. He had been drawing talisman inscriptions for a long time and had already forgotten about everything else, naturally including dinner. Qinghan smiled and said, "I heard that the tofu sold by the Tofu Beauty in the East City is quite good, so I bought some to taste, made it into a dish, and asked the matchmaker to inquire about your residence. I just happened to bring a bit over. How about we have it together?" Zhao Huai heard this and smiled as well. Eating tofu? That's great. He did like tofu. In the pawnshop, the light was bright, with a touch of warmth. Zhao Huai sat at the table with 5 steaming dishes and a bowl of fragrant rice in front of him. Now he knew what was in the wooden box, the 5 dishes. Scallion ribs, fried sesame cakes, steamed meatballs, Wensi tofu soup, and fresh bamboo shoot soup. Zhao Huai picked up the spoon and took a mouthful, savoring it carefully. Does it taste good? Qinghan looked at Zhao Huai in front of her, full of anticipation. It tastes great, especially the knife work of the tofu. It melts in the mouth, and the choice of mushroom as the soup base makes it very aromatic. Zhao Huai nodded lightly. It was not easy to cook the dishes to this level. Getting such an answer, Qinghan felt satisfied and laughed in surprise. I didn't expect young Master Zhao to have studied cooking. A little. Zhao Huai thought to himself that all those food bloggers' videos from his past life were not watched in vain. Actually, I'm not very good at cooking. I learned all these from the servants. When I'm bored and can't go out to enjoy music, I would study cooking at home. Qinghan explained. In that case, you are truly talented. Zhao Huai sincerely said, I thought Miss Yu, being experienced in battle, would be clueless about cooking. I didn't expect the attention to detail in cooking as well. Faced with such blatant praise, Qinghan was very pleased. Nobody had ever praised her for her culinary skills for so long. Young master, you flatter me. After a while of dining, Zhao Huai finished the dishes on the table. Perhaps it was the company of a beauty, but his appetite was exceptionally good today. After the satisfying meal, Zhao Huai looked at Qinghan's back and couldn't help but ask. Miss Yu, if you were to marry me, would your family's elders be able to attend? As far as he knew, Qinghan ran away from home, so her parents might not come. Qinghan sighed while cleaning up the lunchboxes. It's a disgrace to say, but I've been living in the matchmaking agency these days. If I get married, they probably won't come, and I wouldn't invite them either. My father and I are now as estranged as strangers. It's that serious? Zhao Huai was shocked to hear this. In fact, Miss Yu might not know, but I'm also an orphan. My parents passed away when I was young, and I don't have any elders. So if I were to get married, there would be no elders to attend either. Zhao Huai gave a bitter smile, and comforted her softly. Oh? Young master is also alone. Qinghan was surprised to hear this. Yes. Qinghan was actually quite optimistic and joked, then it's easier to get married. It saves a lot of cumbersome procedures. It seems so. Zhao Huai also smiled helplessly. Since Miss Yu doesn't have the pressure of family, why not move in sooner? Staying there all day isn't ideal. Are you willing to take me in? Qinghan asked in surprise. Since we are getting married, what is there to talk about taking or not taking in? Zhao Huai found it very amusing. All right, as the young master says. Qinghan agreed with a wry smile. Qinghai City. King Qin's mansion. At the entrance, soldiers stood on both sides, each one an imposing figure clad in black iron armor and wielding a halberd. In the mansion, there was a luxurious attic, very quiet, without the bustle of music and dancing to be heard. All the generals were present, with the strategists by their side. In the middle stood a handsome youth dressed in a white jade dragon robe. He possessed a pair of dominating golden pupils, emanating an aura of sharpness, like a divine sword out of its scabbard. His untamed eyes revealed the despotic nature of a ruler, utterly imperious. He was none other than the current king of Xia country, Yushi Huang. Greetings, Your Highness King Qin. An elder in a Confucian robe bowed by the side. Humph. You even messed this up and failed to capture the person. Are you all just a bunch of idiots? Yushi Huang scoffed coldly, his anger and his words threatening enough that the surrounding strategists and generals hardly dared to even breathe. They knew that the person before them was not someone to be trifled with. King Qin Yushi Huang. The eldest legitimate son of the Emperor of Xia, the Crown Prince. His status was very noble, and apart from the second prince and the princess, he was the unquestionable authoritative figure in the entire Xia country. The elder in the Confucian robe said, Your Highness, please calm down. The princess is in the Suzhou and Hangzhou area, and we can find her in just 2 more days. Yushi Huang waved his hand impatiently, asking, What's the situation in the capital recently? The elder in the Confucian robe replied with seriousness, Your Highness, the emperor has given the command of 140,000 soldiers stationed in the capital and Guangzhou region to the second prince. Now the military power of the entire Xia has been divided into 3. My brother is also not an easy one to deal with. Yushi Huang sneered coldly before continuing, What about the other 2? The elder in the Confucian robe went on, The second force is naturally the nearly 200,000 soldiers under your control, occupying half of the central plains and the north. North to the Hongmen border, west to the Yaoshan mountain, east to the coastal areas, it has the widest coverage. Go on. The third force is the 300,000-strong army under the command of the princess, occupying the south and the most important areas of the central plains. Their strength ranks first. Yushi Huang calmly said, You missed one thing. Though they have 300,000 soldiers, most of them are occupied with transportation and logistics. They should only have around 100,000 actual soldiers. Their ranking should be third. The elder in the Confucian robe replied, but the princess's army is battle-hardened. Starting from scratch, they rose from a mere 1,000 soldiers to a force of 70,000 and constantly achieved victory. In the end, they even severed Yan country's last lifeline. Well said. Yu Shihuang laughed coldly. My sister managed to cut off the last lifeline of Yan country, so today, let's all talk about how to deal with her army. The elder in the Confucian robe said, Your Highness, we cannot rush this matter. The princess has no intention to contend for supremacy, and she has gone into hiding. Her army is without a commander and there is no news about her movements. Now is the best time to take action. If your highness is reluctant to take action, the second prince certainly will. Yu Shihuang snorted angrily, picked up the glaze cup and smashed it forcefully, then come up with a solution for me. You have been following me for so many years, can't you handle an army trained by a woman? Crash. The sound of the shattered cup echoed, and Yu Shihuang's sharp gaze scanned the room. But nobody dared to meet his eyes. Your Highness, I have a plan. A thin and tall strategist with a goatee dressed in black cloth stepped forward and bowed. Yu Shihuang's expression eased slightly, frowning, he said. Speak quickly. The strategist in black cloth stroked his goatee, speaking earnestly, the princess's martial prowess is outstanding, known to all. Her army is also exceptionally loyal, so we cannot overpower them with brute force. We must outsmart them. Yu Shihuang said dismissively, just say it, how can we outsmart them? If the princess has reached where she is today, it is impossible to have done so without the support of someone behind her. The strategist in black cloth had a mysterious smile on his face. Oh? Who is it? The strategist in black cloth shook his feather fan, saying, it is naturally the one on the throne. Without the support of the current emperor, the princess would not have gained the support of so many people in the court and acquired so much power. Once you ascend the throne, dealing with the princess's army will only require an order. Are you saying I should win over my father? Yu Shihuang pondered aloud. Exactly. The strategist in black cloth smiled faintly. The emperor has been fighting for years, and his body has suffered many hidden injuries. He is merely trying his best to hold on to his power. Your Highness just needs to wait for the opportune moment, ascend the throne at once, and issue a disbanding order. Every problem will be solved easily. Yu Shihuang casually said, I understand. After contemplating for a long time, he made his decision. In that case, let's focus our efforts on the imperial city. As for my sister's side, there's no need to alert her by stirring up any trouble. Send someone to the black market and let them handle it. Yes, sir. Everyone received their orders. 4 days passed in the blink of an eye. It was the first day of the 5th month in the lunar calendar. On this day, Jingzhou City was still as peaceful as ever, with people bustling about their daily lives. Only at Huai's Pawnshop, the atmosphere was extremely festive. Everywhere was beautifully decorated with lanterns, and rows of red lanterns hung on both sides of the street. Rabbit-shaped paper cuttings covered the door of Huai's Pawnshop, giving off a very auspicious and lucky atmosphere. Pawnshop young master is finally getting married. Wishing young Master Zhao an early birth of noble children. Wishing Master and Madam to grow old together. At the entrance of the pawnshop, there was a crowd of people. Men, women, and children from both sides of the street squeezed in with smiles on their faces. They yelled their blessings at Zhao Huai from their mouths. Thank you all for coming. Zhao Huai slightly bowed his hands and smiled while thanking everyone. He was dressed in a red robe, with a red embroidered ball hanging on his chest, a jade belt and silver-red crown. His tall and upright figure made him look heroic and extraordinary. After discussing their wedding plans, the prospective couple decided to simply get married as soon as possible. Both of them were casual and easygoing people, so they went ahead with the plan. Since the elders of their families couldn't come to the wedding ceremony, they could only invite their close neighbors and friends to participate in the wedding. Here comes the bride. Here comes the bride. I heard she's as beautiful as a fairy. Boss Zhao is truly blessed. Accompanied by the appearance of a red sedan chair, a large number of cute children with double buns on their heads ran back and forth on the street, shouting out their praises. They also held bags filled with red dates, peanuts, and wedding candies, handing them out to pedestrians on both sides of the road. These children were hired by Zhao Huai to create a festive atmosphere for the wedding. For this marriage ceremony, Zhao Huai spent a lot of money to ensure everything would be grand and splendid. In his previous life, he was almost 30 years old and had not married. He had spent his life busy and muddled, but now, in this life, he was getting married at the age of 23. Soon after, Qinghan stepped out from the sedan, wearing a red veil, and was helped down by two beautiful maids. She wore a red dress, adorned with various ornaments. Her beauty and elegance were beyond description. She was both stunningly beautiful and dignified. Qinghan slowly entered the inner hall after completing the formalities of entering the bridal chamber. The inner hall was supposed to be reserved for celebrating with the relatives of both families, but considering the unique circumstances of the couple, Zhao Huai invited their neighbors to serve as witnesses. As a result, even the steps of the wedding ceremony had to be shortened. Originally, they should have first performed rituals, such as paying respects to heaven and earth, their ancestors, and their elders. Now, they could only bow and pray to heaven, earth, and their ancestors. Zhao Huai and Qinghan sat opposite each other, with the man to the west and the woman to the east, representing the balance of yin and yang. Actually, ancient wedding ceremonies were not as lively. The Book of Rites, the Great Border Sacrifice records, marriage ceremonies do not use music, which represents the yin and the darkness. Marriage ceremonies do not receive congratulations, which represents the order of mankind. In the Book of Rites Questions from Xingzi, it says, in the bride's family, there should be no music for 3 days. However, marriage is, after all, a great blessing, and an extraordinary blessing. In later generations, as rituals and music degenerated and chaos reigned, many ceremonial practices were abolished, and weddings gradually became more lively. The couples bowed to each other. Zhao Huai and Qinghan bowed to each other. At this moment, young attendants served fresh water for the couple to cleanse their hands, and another attendant filled glasses of wine. Before drinking, the couple cut a strand of each other's hair and tied them together to symbolize shared love and unity. This is called knotting hair. Indeed, knotting hair is to become a couple, with love and trustfulness. After drinking the wine, the couple held hands tightly, symbolizing holding hands for a lifetime, growing old together, and never betraying each other in this life. With the completion of the official wedding ceremony, the newlyweds were ready to go out and meet their guests. During this segment, many men toasted to Qinghan. They came under the pretext of toasting, but they just wanted to get a glimpse of the bride's face. Zhao Huai couldn't bear it and blocked them all. This immediately incited public anger, causing a large group of drinkers to join in. They yelled that they would not leave until they were drunk. But these ordinary people were no match for Zhao Huai, who was already halfway to becoming a cultivator. He could sober up quickly, and even after drinking several stones of wine, he still showed no signs of drunkenness and was very energetic. There were over 10 tables at the wedding, each filled with a lavish feast. Zhao Huai accompanied the guests and was too busy to leave. Time passed quickly. Dr. Yan is here. A thin, middle-aged man dressed in blue walked in with a smile on his face. Oh. If it isn't the famous doctor and lifesaver of Jianzhou City, Sai Yanwang? Upon seeing the man, Zhao Huai's heart overflowed with joy, but his tone carried a hint of teasing. Yan Jing was a well-known doctor in Jianzhou who specialized in saving lives and treating injuries. His medical skills were extraordinary, and he could handle all kinds of complicated and difficult cases. He was highly praised among the people, and it was said that as long as a patient was not dead, he could save them. When it came to charging fees, he was very fair, unlike those unscrupulous quack doctors who charged exorbitant fees without even curing patients. His surname was Yan, which was a homophone for the word yen, so his nickname was Sai Yanwang. The common people often joked that he was on par with the king of hell and challenged the gods. When Zhao Huai first arrived in Jianzhou, the situation was quite chaotic, and a terrible plague broke out. At that time even Dr. Yan, with his great skills, was unable to stop the large-scale spread of the disease. It was Zhao Huai who later found him and suggested a number of ways to prevent and treat infectious diseases, which helped to suppress the further outbreak of the plague. Thus, the two men became acquainted and subsequently became good friends. More importantly, Yan Jing was a hidden cultivator. Although his cultivation level was not as high as Zhao Huai's, it cannot be denied that when Zhao Huai's realm was still low, he had sought advice from Yan Jing about cultivation issues more than once. "You little rascal, you finally got married. I thought you were going to follow in my footsteps and remain single forever." Yan Jing picked up a glass of wine and laughed and scolded Zhao Huai. "Your new bride looks extraordinary." Yan Jing took a sip of wine and laughed. "Beautiful, isn't she?" "That's because I have a good taste." Zhao Huai grinned, looking pleased with himself. "Showing off in front of me, huh? Be careful, I might just seize your pawnshop one day." "You're welcome to try, you're no match for me now." "Alright, you little brat, you've soared to new heights and don't care about your older brother anymore." After chatting for a while, Yan Jing's expression suddenly turned serious, and he said earnestly, "Brother Zhao, you may have a big business opportunity in the next few days. Be sure to seize it." "Oh?" Zhao Huai raised his eyebrows, somewhat surprised. Besides being friends, he and Yan Jing also had a partnership. Most of the business for his pawnshop came from Yan Jing's recommendations, which were always top-notch in Xia country. "I got word from Yanqing City that a treacherous merchant has secretly transported a cartload of stolen goods. He's tried numerous pawnshops, but no one dares to buy them. It's very mysterious, and no one knows what's inside. I dare say that in the entire Jinzhou, you're the one with the best judgment. If you succeed in this deal, you won't have to work for half a year." "But I have no interest in it." Zhao Huai responded with a faint smile. "How can you not be interested in a pile of silver?" Yan Jing also laughed. "I've made enough money, I'm financially free now." Zhao Huai shrugged. "Alright then, as you wish." Seeing that Zhao Huai didn't care, Yan Jing didn't want to push the issue further. Instead, he shared another piece of news: the cultivation technique auction you asked about will start tomorrow afternoon. Don't forget about it. "I know." Zhao Huai nodded. This news was still very important to him. Since he had acquired the Heavenly Heart Wisdom Eye's destiny, he couldn't waste it, so naturally, he needed to acquire more cultivation techniques to learn. Behind the pawnshop was the location of the wedding room. Qinghan, dressed in a red skirt, had a cold and charming face, snow-white skin, and cherry-like bright and transparent lips. At this moment, she had her eyes closed, sitting upright on the bed, her breath stable and strong, and her invisible true qi flowing through her meridians. Obviously, she was cultivating. After a while, her slanted phoenix eyes opened, and a fleeting joy flashed in her sharp gaze. "My cultivation is about to break through again." Although she didn't like to practice martial arts, it had already become a part of her daily life, inseparable from her. In the peaceful days to come, even for the sake of young Master Zhao, no, for her husband, she had to cultivate diligently so she could shield him from wind and rain. It was absolutely necessary. Her only concern was that Zhao Huai was a mere mortal. If her lifespan far exceeded his in the future, what would she do? "No, I must teach him cultivation." After thinking for a long time, Qinghan decided to lead Zhao Huai into the world of cultivators. She couldn't bear to watch Zhao Huai grow old like this. It would be too painful. At that moment, a beautiful maidservant, who appeared out of nowhere in the darkness, bowed respectfully and said, "Greetings, my princess." Seeing her appear, Qinghan immediately knew there was news from the outside world, so she replied indifferently, "Today is my wedding day. I hope there's good news." "My princess, it is indeed good news." The beautiful maidservant replied, bowing her head. "Speak." "King Qin has lifted all surveillance on the army and relaxed the investigation of coastal cities. It seems that he wants to put this conflict behind." "What does he want to do?" Qinghan's eyes narrowed, lost in thought. Her restless brother was usually ambitious and eager for battle, without any other schemes. However, this time, his actions were surprisingly unfathomable to her. "My princess, should we counterattack?" the beautiful maidservant asked. Qinghan shook her head. "No need, this has no effect on me, and I no longer have the power to command a large army." The beautiful maidservant knelt down, saluting in military fashion, and shouted, "As long as my princess wishes, 200,000 soldiers are ready at any time." "That would be a rebellion," Qinghan said coldly. "But you were the one who fought for the world." The beautiful maidservant tried to argue. "It wasn't just me, everyone did it together." Qinghan sighed, stood up, and fiddled with the rose flowers beside the bed. The beautiful maidservant advised, "My princess, the conflict between you and your majesty is not irreconcilable. If you and your majesty admit your mistakes, you might be able to resume your post." "I've said it many times," Qinghan replied indifferently. "It's impossible." "Then, how will you deal with your majesty's longevity banquet in 7 days? Just ignore it." "My princess." "Enough, leave me, I'm tired." "Yes." When most of the guests in the main hall left, Zhao Huai finally arrived at the most exciting moment. "It's time to enter the bridal chamber." With a nervous heart, Zhao Huai stepped into the wedding room. "Madam, I'm coming in." The wooden door covered with red paper made a gila sound, and Zhao Huai saw Qinghan sitting on the bed. She wore a red floral cover over her head embroidered with peonies. Despite wearing a large red skirt, her figure was still graceful, and her phoenix-embroidered shoes were delicate. As Zhao Huai approached her, he could clearly hear her breath, as soft as a mosquito's whisper. Apparently, Qinghan was also very nervous in her heart. Zhao Huai carefully lifted the red veil, and Qinghan's stunningly beautiful face was completely revealed before his eyes. Compared to her icy, elegant appearance when they first met, Qinghan now had light makeup, dark eyebrows, delicate features, and even more vivid red lips. The only constant was her pair of engaging, slanted eyes. At this moment, those eyes were gazing at him with tender affection. "My husband." The title of husband made Zhao Huai's wish come true. Who could understand the depth of love in those words? He couldn't believe that he had really married such a breathtakingly beautiful wife. Was this really not a dream? Their encounter could be described as love at first sight. They simply took an instant liking to each other. Having secured such a virtuous wife, what more could a husband ask for? With Qinghan's hand in his grasp, Zhao Huai softly said, "My lady, I will never let you suffer any grievances as long as I'm around. From now on, you can do whatever you want, and no one can limit you." Qinghan nodded vigorously. At this moment, her heart was pounding, and her body felt as if all the bones in it had disappeared. Zhao Huai's words filled her with warmth and hope for the future. Seeing such a charming beauty in front of him gave Zhao Huai immense satisfaction. Unable to contain his emotions any longer, he kissed her deeply. "My lady, it's time for us to consummate our marriage." "Ah!" Accompanied by a startled cry, the candle suddenly flickered and went out. The second day. Amidst the fragrance of flowers and the chirping of birds, the sun shone brightly. Qinghan woke up slowly to find that there was no one beside her. She felt dizzy and unwell, her thoughts returning to the events of the previous night, which were indescribable. Her husband didn't seem like an ordinary man, his stamina was incredible. Qinghan rose from the bed, intending to bathe first. Someone had prepared hot water for her, so she washed her face and body before changing into fresh clothes. She sat in front of the mirror to apply makeup and was about to comb her hair when a warm hand suddenly enveloped hers. Reflected in the bronze mirror was a handsome face filled with tenderness. "Let me comb your hair." "All right." Qinghan found these words as sweet as honey in her heart. Zhao Huai held the comb in one hand and gently stroked his wife's dark, long hair with the other. 1 stroke, 2 strokes, his movements were incredibly gentle. Gazing downwards at her flawless, jade-white cheeks, he softly said, "My lady. You're so beautiful, and I can't get enough of you." Zhao Huai sincerely praised her. Yu Qinghan covered her mouth and giggled, I didn't notice before, but you're quite the silver-tongued devil. Well, that depends on the person. Unfazed, Zhao Huai gave an eloquent reply. My lady, I have to go out this afternoon, so you can cook dinner later. For the pawnshop's business, just watch it for me. Zhao Huai hadn't forgotten that he had important matters to attend to. He'd been waiting a long time for the cultivation technique auction this afternoon and couldn't afford to miss it. Alright, be careful. Leave the pawnshop to me. As for Zhao Huai's personal matters, Yu Qinghan wouldn't interfere since he hadn't said anything about it. Soon, Zhao Huai went to the warehouse and took some money and valuables into the black ring. He glanced at the white jade imperial dragon seal at the very top, hesitating for a moment before putting it away inside the black ring. To cultivate immortality and achieve immortality, I now have one more thing to consider. Exiting the door, Zhao Huai tossed the golden bronze coins in his hand. A smile crept across the corner of his mouth, and he felt refreshed and invigorated. In the afternoon, the sunlight was just right, shining down on people, making everyone feel pleasantly warm. Zhao Huai hummed a little tune and strolled nonchalantly down the street. The cultivation technique auction this time took place at the Heavenly Treasures Trade Association. It was quite a distance from the eastern part of the city. The Heavenly Treasures Trade Association was the largest and most active commerce guild in the entire Xia country. In every somewhat prosperous city in Central State, there was a branch of the association, and Zhao Huai was currently heading to the Jianzhou branch of the Heavenly Treasures Trade Association. The Heavenly Treasures Trade Association was initially formed by a group of powerful cultivators. It has developed over more than 800 years and now has become a dominating presence. Apart from Central State, its influence can also be seen in other remote areas. If a cultivator wanted to obtain cultivation materials quickly, they would inevitably have to deal with them. Internally, they say that the Heavenly Treasures Trade Association doesn't produce cultivation resources, they are merely the movers of resources, providing a trading platform for the wider community of cultivators. Strictly speaking, it transcends the mortal world, with its lifespan being longer than most dynasties. Zhao Huai passed through the bustling crowd and soon arrived at the location of the Heavenly Treasures Trade Branch Association. Before his eyes was a broad street, the ground was very clean. Looking ahead, there were rows of exquisitely built attics, grand in scale. The entrance of the street was filled with lanterns. The source of light within the lanterns was not fire but spiritual stones. In the eyes of real powerful cultivators, gold, silver, and jewelry mean nothing. Therefore, without a doubt, in the realm of cultivators, the mortal world, and imperial court, the hardest currency is the spiritual stone. Besides, demonic cores, demonic bones, strange stones, pills to assist cultivation can also be used for trade. But how many true cultivators are there? Usually, only those who have reached the initiation realm are considered to have stepped into the door of immortal cultivation, and becoming a strong cultivator is a difficult task. However, most people are stuck at refining qi. Considering the situation of most people, gold and silver are also acceptable in the association's transactions, but the exchange rate is quite low. Zhao Huai had quite a bit of gold and silver, but his spiritual stones were very limited, so his purchasing of a cultivation technique this time was quite targeted. If there were not cultivation techniques that were extremely valuable to him, he would not buy them. At the entrance of the Heavenly Treasures Trade Branch Association, the Grand Customer Lounge was filled with all sorts of people. The ones who could come here were either rich or noble, so they were dressed extravagantly. Even people from slightly affluent families would come here to broaden their horizons. Among the hustle and bustle, Zhao Huai lazily walked through the door, scanned around. The highest cultivation here was not more than the third stage of refining qi, lower than what he had expected. After all, those with good aptitude would have joined a sect already, how could they still be here? Zhao Huai came to a quiet room and found an elder. Elder Chu, long time no see. He greeted with a smile as soon as he entered the room. Ha ha ha, it's young Master Zhao. You've finally arrived. Elder Chu was a kind-hearted old man in a grey Taoist robe. with white hair and a face full of wrinkles. He was quite old. He was a guest elder of the Heavenly Treasures Trade Association and has been stationed at the Jianzhou branch for many years for a retirement pension. Although he seemed old, he was at the second stage of initiation realm. He had lived for more than 100 years and was a frontline member of an Immortal cultivation sect in his youth. Now, he was spending his old age in this branch. The pills you bought last time were useful, weren't they? Judging by your complexion and mood, it seems like you've made some progress. Elder Chu stroked his beard, looking at the spirited Zhao Huai with eyes full of undescribed envy. The difference between people was huge. When he was as young as Zhao Huai, he was still struggling at the first or second stage of refining qi. Thanks to your recommendation, Elder Chu, the pills last time were really good. I encountered a small bottleneck in my cultivation recently, so I decided to come and check out some cultivation techniques. Zhao Huai responded with a light smile. Cultivation technique? I heard there are a few top-notch pieces among the new ones this time. Let's see if you can get them. Elder Chu hinted with a profound tone. Couldn't you reveal a bit more? Zhao Huai was relieved as he couldn't help but smile. A little mystery is good. Elder Chu shook his head and chuckled. Then Elder Chu tossed a token to Zhao Huai, smilingly said. Your room has been reserved. Just go straight there. It's at the front and it's a luxurious private room. Zhao Huai took the token and laughed lightly. Thanks a lot, I will invite you for some tea another day. Arriving at their arranged luxurious private room, Zhao Huai comfortably settled himself on a mink-covered armchair as a pretty maid served him high-quality tea and refreshments. The spot he was sitting in was elevated to the perfect high platform, giving him a bird's-eye view of the entire auction and a clear look at the items being sold. There was a similar platform next to them, currently empty. This height would also prevent others from recognizing who he was. He had frequented the place quite often and spent a good amount of money to the point where it wouldn't be an exaggeration to call him a member of the Heavenly Treasures Trade Association. It was how he had become acquainted with Elder Chu. Besides, with all the strenuous cultivation, why shouldn't he enjoy some leisure time? People had begun to file in and fill the vacant seats. Before long, the venue was filled to capacity. Simultaneously, a young man in a dark green robe entered the room next to Zhao Huai, accompanied by his followers. He was dressed to the nines, wearing 3 jade rings on one hand, a clear sign of abundant wealth and influence. Zhao Huai spared him a fleeting glance. This was just an ordinary man without any cultivation. His servant, on the other hand, seemed to have some abilities, clearly playing the role of a bodyguard. Zhao Huai quickly withdrew his gaze, pulling out his gold and bronze coins, intending to divine his fortune for the day. Misfortune and fortune come hand in hand, let's see. Hexagram 1, bringing the spirit into matter, infusing form with life, lucky stars shine brightly, your indication is fortune. Trace guidance, fortune bestows its rays, harvest is plentiful. Upon seeing the emerging text and guidance, Zhao Huai murmured under his breath. Bringing the spirit into matter, infusing form with life, it sounds profound. What kind of abundant harvest is it referring to? Money? Cultivation technique? The message was unclear, much like a riddle, leaving Zhao Huai somewhat perplexed. Should he consider upgrading the Trace Origins destiny later on? Perhaps the results would be even better? Regardless, after consulting the bronze coins, Zhao Huai was filled with anticipation. At this moment, the young man in the dark green robe next to him kept looking around in curiosity, finding everything extremely fascinating. When he caught sight of Zhao Huai's calm and composed demeanor, he couldn't resist striking up a conversation. My dear friend over there, you seem to be quite an expert. Do you know what valuable items will be auctioned today? Zhao Huai gave him a brief glance. I don't know. The youth in the dark green robe seemed to have already made himself at home and still wore a smiling face as he said. I am Li Yanqing, and I have been struggling to find a way to break through my qi refining stage. I came to this auction with the aim of finding a solution. Do you know any quick breakthrough methods or any cultivation experiences? I don't know. Zhao Huai didn't even spare him a glance, his eyes staring fixedly at the auction items being presented at the center of the hall. Better for a fellow Taoist to die than for me to become poor. Most cultivators are primarily self-interested and generally don't concern themselves with others' affairs, not even to offer advice. Besides, he doesn't have any familiarity with this person. The auction officially begins. As the auctioneer called out loudly from the stage, the auction started, and the man in the dark green robe had no choice but to shut up, a trace of regret visible in his eyes. In the center of the auction, there is a high platform where a refined middle-aged man stands, giving an opening speech to the audience. Welcome everyone to the venue of the Heavenly Treasures Trade Branch Association's event. My name is Li Yuanxing. I am the president of the provincial branch and also the host of this event. On behalf of Heavenly Treasures, I would like to thank you all for attending the second auction of this month. Zhao Huai props his chin up, looking at the refined man standing on the stage with a strong and upright posture, his voice revealing a rich true qi. Without even thinking, he knows that the man must be a cultivator as well. After all, in a place like an auction, it is impossible not to have a powerful cultivator to manage it. We are all old friends here, President Li does not need to be so polite. Yes, let's save the pleasantries for later, we are all very eager for the start of the auction. After only a few words, many cultivators and Jianzhou businessmen in the seats were urging him to start. Alright, since that is the case, I will not beat around the bush. Li Yuanxing is straightforward, and after a hearty laugh, he lifts the red cloth to reveal the first auction item. The first item to be auctioned off is a strengthening soul pill made by a 7th grade alchemist. It can strengthen the flesh body of a cultivator during the refining qi stage, acting as a blood invigorator and muscle strengthener. And as we all know, a 7th grade alchemist is already a rare existence. After all, the top alchemist in the entire Xia country is only 3rd grade. A 7th grade alchemist is comparable to a money tree for a family. This strengthening soul pill was made by the alchemist to raise the funds for purchasing expensive medicinal herbs. It's an opportunity that shouldn't be missed. The starting price is 3,000 silver or 300 inferior spiritual stones, and each price increase must be at least 1/10 of the minimum price. 3,500 silver. Just as the host finishes announcing the price, a middle-aged man in a Taoist robe immediately raises his hand and calls out a bid. 4,000 silver. A chubby uncle with a plump figure also joins the fray. It seems that this pill is indeed very popular. For cultivators within the 5th stage of refining qi, the strengthening soul pill can greatly enhance their flesh body. But beyond that, the effect is quite limited. As a result, Zhao Huai is not interested in the pill wafting pleasant scents behind the glazed cover. He has already reached the 9th stage of refining qi, with his flesh body having reached an initial peak. This kind of pill is no longer suitable for him. However, the bidding continues and quickly rises to 7,000 silver. With a single pill selling for 7,000 silver, it is equivalent to buying a luxurious villa in any large and prosperous city in Xia country, including maidservants. Zhao Huai does not idle, taking out the gold and bronze coins and flipping them in his hand. He wants to develop a habit where he tries his luck every now and then. Who knows, maybe there will be a surprise. Misfortune and fortune are intertwined, let's see for now. Hexagram 1, on the path of immortal cultivation, refining the body comes first. The strengthening soul pill made by a 7th grade alchemist, the guidance you receive is fortune. Reverse tracing guidance, the hastily made pill is crudely made. After taking it, there will be no harm, but also not much benefit. Zhao Huai can't help but laugh, this guidance has become longer this time. Is it because of the appraisal of treasure? This pill is indeed the product of a dishonest alchemist trying to cut corners. Before he can react, a bright yellow light ball directly enters his mind. Oh? Is it already here? Zhao Huai is surprised. Alchemy Maniac, inferior yellow grade, your speed at refining yellow grade pills increases slightly, your efficiency doubles, and you have a special effect that allows you to refine 2 batches of pills at the same time. However, the consumption of your spiritual power increases. Looking at the newly acquired destiny, Zhao Huai purses his lips, not feeling satisfied. Because he does not know alchemy, so what use is this destiny? It would be better to disassemble and upgrade other destinies. Let it collect dust at the bottom of the box first. Zhao Huai decides not to worry about it for now, and continues to pay attention to the auction. However, the bidding for this strengthening soul pill has ended, and a result has been reached. Eventually, it is sold to a middle-aged businessman for a price of 7,000 silver. Next up is a treasured sword forged from deer demon bone. Unfortunately, it is a defective item. The blacksmith, who is also a weaponsmith, encountered some trouble during the forging process. As a result, this is a failed magical weapon, and it cannot be considered a magical weapon, but it is still better than an ordinary sword. Li Yuanqing carefully introduces the pale white long sword that was just placed on the stage. The starting price is 5,000 silver or 500 inferior spiritual stones. A defective one, never mind then. Zhao Huai shook his head. However, this didn't affect his following operations. Fortune and misfortune depend on each other, let's just take a look. Hexagram 1, to do a good job, one must first sharpen their tools. In front of you is a failed magical weapon. The guidance you received is misfortune. Retroactive guidance, even a meticulous blacksmith makes mistakes sometimes. Hopefully, he won't drink while forging next time. Following the guidelines, a bright yellow destiny was created. Sword hard as firm as a rock, middle yellow grade, your Taoist mind resembles a sharp and strong sword, not easily affected by external factors. Special effect, the sharpness of weapons increases. Hiss. Zhao Huai took a cold breath, couldn't help but smile bitterly. He already had the destiny of Taoist mind quite settled, mysterious grade, so the effect of sword hard as firm as a rock was quite limited. It's really unlucky. No problem, just let it gather dust in the box, let's continue. Zhao Huai didn't get discouraged. Instead, he revived his spirits and started the rapid destiny refining process. Several items appeared one after another on the auction stage, each attracting fierce competition, including pills, weapons, seeds of spiritual grass, Taoist talismans, demon armor, and so on. Basically, every time Zhao Huai threw a copper coin, he could get a destiny, which could be described as an astonishingly high probability. He came to this auction not really to buy cultivation techniques but to refine destinies. Indeed, most of the time, he didn't necessarily need these dispensable items. As long as he obtained their destinies, he could exert no less than their original effects. In comparison, why should he buy them? The atmosphere of the auction became even hotter, and Li Yuanqing was delighted to see such a scene. The better the business, the more they earned. Once again, thank you all for your presence. You can take a break now, and I'll have someone bring up the next items on stage, Li Yuanqing said with a smile. During the break, Zhao Huai also took the time to count the newly acquired destinies. He started viewing them in his mind. Scholar of wood plants, inferior yellow grade, the growth speed of the plants and medicinal herbs you cultivate is twice as fast, limited to low-level spiritual objects. Master's ultimate intention, superior yellow grade, the power of the cultivation techniques and methods performed by your flesh body is doubled. Excellence in talisman inscription, inferior yellow grade, the speed of your basic talisman inscriptions is twice as fast, with a special effect that allows you to simultaneously draw 2 talismans. Diamond body, middle yellow grade, under the protection of true qi, your flesh body becomes extremely hard, and ordinary swords can't cause you any harm. Of the 4 destinies, except for the first one, the other 3 all have significant effects on Zhao Huai. Excellence in talisman inscription can increase his efficiency in drawing talismans, perfectly matching the 3000 Thunderbolt technique. Master's ultimate intention, needless to say, is incredibly useful. What does it mean to double the power of cultivation techniques? 1 punch from me is equivalent to double damage. This is just a yellow grade. If it upgrades, this destiny will likely become even more terrifying. Time flew by quickly, and Li Yuanqing stood in the center of the high platform once again, announcing loudly. The next item up for auction is a cultivation technique that our Heavenly Treasures Trade Association accidentally obtained. Rumor has it that this technique is incredibly abstruse, like a heavenly book. No one has been able to understand it or learn it so far. All we know is that it is a powerful intention technique, from a declined great immortal cultivation sect. No one can understand it? The words from the stage immediately caught Zhao Huai's attention. His interest surged, and his eyes filled with enthusiasm. Since no one can learn it, it has been idle for a long time and has become a decoration. That's why it was brought to the auction. You should know your limits, everyone. It's not bad to collect it either, Li Yuanqing said to the crowd with a smile. On stage, a waiter slowly approached, holding a tray with a crystal-clear jade slip standing silently on it. Zhao Huai knew that the cultivation technique he was waiting for has arrived. From the high-end packaging, it was evident that this was a high-level technique. This technique is called Insanity Technique. After cultivating it, one can greatly enhance one's spiritual power. It's a rare technique that mainly helps in boosting one's spirit power. However, its content is a bit abstruse. Li Yuanqing pointed to the jade slip and introduced it to the audience below the stage. A spirit-based technique? That's indeed rare. Insanity Technique, I've heard of that name before. It seems like I remember, 100 years ago, the famous idealism sect was able to make a name for itself with this technique. It was said that many sect disciples used it to suppress a large number of demons. The idealism sect has long declined. The reason why the immortal method remains everlasting is that it can constantly update and innovate. This technique of theirs is outdated, which is why it has become so. Many cultivators and swordsmen present discussed enthusiastically, talking about the past of the insanity technique. Many people thought that such a technique was only a small path and could not make it to the big stage. Zhao Huai naturally heard all these words, and he thought there shouldn't be many people competing for this technique, so he should be able to acquire it easily. At the same time, he stayed silent and started to toss copper coins. Misfortune goes hand in hand. Let's just look at it. Hexagram 1, Unity of Taoist Mind and Divine Prowess Dual Cultivation. Faced with an unknown technique, the indication you get for bidding for it is fortune. Traceback guidance, this is a restraining type of intention technique. Hexagram 2, the speaker is unintentional, but the listener has a mind. If you decide to give up this declining technique, the indication you get is misfortune. Traceback guidance, the listeners have ill intentions and impure motives. There aren't many techniques like this, it seems like I have to fight for it. Zhao Huai's sharp gaze swept over the entire auction venue and saw 4 masked men, completely covered on a hot day, as if they were too ugly to show their faces. Their clothes were surprisingly identical, indicating they all belonged to the same power. Their eyes were all fixated on the jade slip, as if their gleaming eyes were about to overflow. It seemed that there were people who knew the value of this technique, so couldn't be careless. Zhao Huai thought to himself. The starting price of Insanity Technique is 5,000 liang, taels, or 500 lower-grade spiritual stones. Each bid must not be lower than 1/10 of the original price. Li Yuanqing raised his hand and announced, the auction starts now. 6,000 liang. The first masked youth among the 4 yelled, directly adding 1,000 liang. This price surprised many people at the scene, as a cultivation technique wasn't as practical and direct as pills, talisman inscriptions, or magical weapons. It was possible that you couldn't learn the technique, couldn't learn it well, or it might be incompatible with your physique. Therefore, it usually had to be targeted. 6,500 liang. A stern-faced middle-aged businessman also added to the price with a smile. It's not bad to buy it for collection. After all, it's the heirloom of the great immortal cultivation sects. It has some immortal aura. 8,000 liang. The masked youth raised his hand again, showing no expression while increasing the price. This time he added 2,000 liang. Everyone, including the middle-aged businessman, looked astonished. We really need this technique, so we hope you can give us some face. The masked young man used his true chi to transmit his voice. It was extremely hoarse and harsh, barely audible as if it wasn't human, and extremely strange. At the same time, the masked young man emitted a pressure befitting a high-level cultivator, making people around dare not breathe. Therefore, no one else immediately called out a higher price. After all, exceeding 8,000 liang to buy a technique that you might not even learn would be a significant loss, right? 10,000 liang, I'll take it. A languid voice sounded, carrying a faint tone of unquestionable authority. It was Zhao Huai, who was in the luxurious private room. This immediately caught the attention of the guests present. After all, there had never been a sound from this room before, and now someone was actually bidding. They didn't know who this big figure from Jianzhou was, but he had quite a presence. The moment he opened his mouth, he raised the price to 10,000 liang. Everyone wondered if they had misunderstood. Was this technique really that good? Good. 10,000 liang. Is anyone going to raise the price? Li Yuanqing saw that the insanity technique was being fought for. Even though he was surprised, he was naturally delighted. A technique that had been gathering dust in the warehouse could sell for 10,000 liang, which was a great profit. He immediately asked another question, as if to fuel the fire. Hearing Zhao Huai's voice, a vicious look flashed in the eyes of the masked young man, and he glared at the private room above with an unhappy face. The masked people around him revealed questioning gazes. Boss, should we kill him? Don't create trouble. It's not easy to come here, and there are powerful people guarding it. The masked young man shook his head and then raised his hand. 10,002, plus 300 low-grade spiritual stones. Zhao Huai slightly sat up on the mink-covered armchair and exclaimed with surprise. Wow, this guy is serious, pulling out spiritual stones directly. He had somewhat underestimated the determination of the other party. 10,002, plus 500 low-grade spiritual stones. Zhao Huai decisively followed up. 10,002, plus 1,000 low-grade spiritual stones. The masked young man looked extremely indifferent. Zhao Huai saw this situation and couldn't help but frown. He hit a hard rock. Could it be a ploy? He came out this time, originally thinking it would be good enough to obtain a satisfactory cultivation technique, so the money he brought was limited. He didn't expect that at this critical moment, someone would stubbornly snatch things from him. Of course, if he wanted to grab it, he could take out most of his wealth, but it would seem a bit unworthy. For a moment, he hesitated. In the past, he definitely wouldn't have hesitated for so long since money could be earned again. It was just dirt. But right now, he had just gotten married and gotten a new wife. It was a time for spending money in his family. If he spent like this, would it affect his foundation? Dear friend, do you seem to be having difficulties? At this moment, the youth in a dark green robe who hadn't spoken for a long time laughed and said. It's not difficulties, just a bit of a struggle. Zhao Huai glanced at him, didn't hide anything, and spoke directly. How about I help you this time, just to make a friend? Oh? Zhao Huai cautiously stared at him. The young man in a dark green robe laughed helplessly, spread his hands, and said, Don't misunderstand. I just want to find a teacher who can teach me how to refine qi. Why are you looking for me? Zhao Huai asked, puzzled. The young man in the dark green robe was serious. I have an intuition that you are very powerful. 10,002, plus 1,000 low-grade spiritual stones, once. Zhao Huai heard the voice and knew that he had no time to consider it, so he nodded and said. Okay, I promise you. How much money can you contribute? Not much, but I can definitely help you get this cultivation technique. The young man in the dark green robe looked extremely confident and then raised his hand to bid. 3,000 low-grade spiritual stones. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the room was shocked. What kind of concept was 3,000 low-grade spiritual stones? The exchange rate between spiritual stones and silver was 1 to 10. 3,000 low-grade spiritual stones were equivalent to 30,000 silver taels. That was almost the entire wealth, right? It was worth knowing that the annual tax revenue of Jianzhou was only 90,000 silver taels. They must be crazy, completely crazy. Zhao Huai listened and was also very surprised. Can you do it? This is not a small amount. Senior, don't worry. The young man in a dark green robe tilted his head, smiled brilliantly, and gave a thumbs up, saying, My father is the governor, so don't worry. The main gate of Jinzhou City. Two figures wearing black bamboo hats passed through the gate and stood at the entrance. Judging from their back, one was fat and one was skinny. The skinny man was bone-thin, frail-looking with delicate fingers tightly clutching a feather fan. The other man was burly, with a strong presence. A knife hung from his waist, and his arms adorned with numerous chains. The two men silently exchanged glances before nodding to each other. They were the two preeminent assassins sent by King Qin's mansion in response to a bounty reward. Despite their young age, they had reached the 8th stage of refining qi, showing extraordinary talent. The skinny man was known as the life-taking scholar, while the burly man was known as the butcher. Both of them looked to be in their early 20s. They were members of the Shadowless Assassin Pavilion, nurtured within the black market. The black market was distinct from regular business associations like the Heavenly Treasures Trade Association. It leaned on the extreme side, dealing in gambling and the sale of slaves, reselling resources, human trafficking, and assassination. It was an underground platform in a gray area of morality. The butcher had participated in underground rings organized by the black market. As a slave, he won 28 consecutive fights in the ring and was spotted by the Shadowless Assassin Pavilion because of his skills, and was recruited as an assassin. The life-taking scholar, on the other hand, was a student expelled from his academy. The reason he was expelled was simple. He often got in fights and kills, which was a crime against humanity, but it also went against school's Confucian teachings. Thus, he was expelled, leading to his jailing. After being released from prison, the life-taking scholar was recruited by the Shadowless Assassin Pavilion and became an assassin. With considerable resources invested in his cultivation, his skill advancement was rapid, and he became a distinguished character in the refining qi realm. They became leading figures among assassins and were considered strong individuals within their realm, even capable of crossing realms to kill. The moment they saw the bounty, they were stunned. This was because the woman in question had a very high status, and a significant reputation. It would be difficult not to know of her. 3 years ago, after a decisive battle between Yan country and the rebel army, it was she who put down the last breath of the Yan kingdom. However, they still accepted the task without hesitation. As for the consequences of the assassination, they didn't care. The reward was enough to cover their cultivation expenses for half a lifetime. If she died, the entire Xia country would surely be rocked. I heard she recently married a man who runs a pawnshop. Let's go, it's time to kidnap. Meanwhile, the auction was still ongoing, and it was in its most heated phase. The expression of the masked youth was extremely unpleasant, his eyes seemingly about to spit out flames. The voice from the open single room hadn't echoed for a while. He thought he'd almost certainly won, but who would have guessed someone else had raised their hand in another room? This was a blatant disrespect to his patience. Is there anyone else who wishes to bid? If not, we are ready to conclude the auction, Li Yuanqing called out from the stage. 3,000 lower-grade spiritual stones, once. Boss, we have only 500 spiritual stones left. Do you want to continue with the bid? Asked the masked man beside him. Forget it, it isn't worth it. The masked youth knew that it wasn't possible to spend all of their money at once, but it was still a big loss this time. When we go out later, he began, and then made a chopping motion with his hand. Understood. The henchmen around him revealed knowing smiles, their eyes filled with the intent to kill. Meanwhile, Zhao Huai on the high floor, with the assistance of the young man in the dark green robe, was watching the 4 people below with a thoughtful look on his face. He felt something was off about these men. 3,000 lower-grade spiritual stones, twice. 3,000 lower-grade spiritual stones, thrice. 3,000 lower-grade spiritual stones, sold. Following Li Yuanqing's high shout, everything was decided. The insanity technique was off the table. Senior, we've successfully bidden for it. The young man in the dark green robe was giggling as he spoke. It was indeed not easy for him to find a senior who could guide him. To him, these 3,000 lower-grade spiritual stones were nothing. But they were definitely worth spending. You're called Li Yuanqing, right? Zhao Huai broke the silence. Yes. Li Yuanqing smiled slightly. He was quite delighted because the senior had remembered his name. When the auction is over, come with me. Zhao Huai turned his head and said seriously. Although Li Yuanqing's behavior seemed a bit foolish, he actually provided substantial help. He is not one to meddle in others' affairs unnecessarily, but first and foremost, he has to be one who knows to return a favor. All right, I understand. Li Yuanqing nodded honestly, just like a chick pecking at rice, without questioning the reason. The auction was coming to an end, and Zhao Huai no longer needed to worry about anything else. Just this one cultivation technique, along with a large number of destinies, had made him plenty of gains. Now, the only thing to worry about was what happens after leaving the auction. With that thought, Zhao Huai tossed up the copper coin again. Let me see, the situation I will be in half an hour from now. Misfortune and fortune are interdependent, let's see. Hexagram 1, controlling motion with stillness, changelessness becomes the only constant. You stay in the auction and don't move, the indication you get is misfortune. Trace guidance, external danger, immobility signifies adversity. Hexagram 2, active assault, breaking the deadlock. You take the initiative to break the deadlock, the indication you get is misfortune. Trace guidance, beware again and again, there are many enemies, not being human-like. Hexagram 3, responding stably, having careful plans. You make ample preparations, waiting for the crisis to come, the indication you get is fortune. Trace guidance, there still exist retreat routes, being stable brings life chances. After seeing the last result in front of him, Zhao Huai also breathed a sigh of relief. He still has a considerable chance of winning. But now it seems that he has more than one enemy. There are unknown entities outside that want to take action against him. As for this non-human-like entity, it deserves some pondering. Zhao Huai thought. He had thought about it early on, the 4 people in front of him, all masked and behaving strangely, did not look like human beings. Could they possibly be demons disguised amongst humans? You should know, this world is a world of immortal cultivation, and naturally, there will be demons. As far as Zhao Huai knows, demons disguising as people will definitely leave the characteristics of demons on their bodies. These characteristics cannot be completely removed. This is perhaps the reason why they cover their faces. While demons hiding amongst humans may not dare to confront the human race head-on, they absolutely cannot be underestimated. Whoosh! While checking the result, a blue destiny light group entered his mind. Wolf in sheep's clothing, high-class mysterious possessor of this destiny can hide cultivation, those below the rebirth realm can't see your real strength. Seeing this line, Zhao Huai couldn't help but laugh. This destiny is interesting, hiding cultivation, it's absolutely necessary for the old 6. Imagine for a moment, one day, a devil at the Golden Core stage goes to ambush a merchant team, there's a row of bodyguards at the chi-refining phase protecting them, thinking they have it under control, but then a giant disguised as metamorphosis stage slips out from the middle. A direct show of flying moth rushing into the fire. Taking advantage of the last bit of time, Zhao Huai began absorbing the destinies he had gained. Sword heart as firm as a rock, and alchemy maniac, are absolutely ones he doesn't need, or rather he has better alternatives. The same goes for scholar of wood plants, he does not plant anything. If it could cultivate immortal medicine or spiritual grass, it might be worthy to cultivate a little to earn some silver, but for now it can only raise some low-grade spiritual grasses and the cost of upgrading is too large, so he chooses to abandon it. Better to break them down and use it to upgrade better destinies. As for which destiny to enhance, there is a knack. Best to upgrade those that can improve his strength in the short term. After much deliberation, Zhao Huai felt that, peak ultimate's intention, was the most appropriate. Increasing the power of the cultivation technique, can there be anything more against the heaven than this? Next is Diamond Body, which concerns defensive power, but it only resists ordinary swords. It's certainly not enough, it needs to be strengthened. Decompose, Sword Hard as Firm as a Rock, and Alchemy Maniac, all to be absorbed into Peak Ultimate's intention. Upon Zhao Huai's words, the light group in his mind began to operate. The two clusters of small yellow light became a dust of stars, all absorbed into the light group where the Peak Ultimate's intention resides. The bright yellow light gradually dimmed, with dazzling dark blue light blooming in its place. A larger light group appeared. Ultimate's Peak, high-class mysterious, the techniques and measures you deploy with your physical body, their power will all get a 4 times increase. Special effect, physical body receives the blessing of intention, reaching its peak, the strength gets doubled, lasts for 1 hour, once a day. Zhao Huai looked at the upgraded brand new destiny, and surprise was revealed in his eyes. Peak Ultimate's intention? This special effect is too heaven-defying. Firstly, the added power was twice the original, reaching a 4-fold increase. Moreover, the special effect was that, as long as extreme intention was activated, and entering the peak state, double cultivation boost could be obtained, which was equivalent to a skill of burning essence and blood, but without the need to consume qi blood. One enhances the technique's power and the other improves one's cultivation. Thus, Zhao Huai had a guess. If the support of Peak Ultimate's intention destiny was added, and extreme intention was activated, would the power of the burst technique be able to stack? If it was possible, the combined power of the two would be 8 times the original? Zhao Huai's mind began spinning rapidly. A strong adult male's full-force punch would weigh about 150 kilograms. Qi-refining cultivators have 10 times their power, so they can exert a force of 1,500 kilograms. However, his punch's power was 8 times that of a regular qi-refining cultivator, which was 12,000 kilograms. After activating extreme intention, could he easily strike with the power of 10,000 kilograms? Killing a burly demonic beast in one blow would be a breeze. Although the above calculations were just Zhao Huai's temporary assumptions and had many uncertainties, the value of the 8-fold power was not affected. Merging destiny, Peak Ultimate's intention. Without any hesitation, Zhao Huai immediately absorbed the destiny. With the ultimate bloom of the destiny light group, Zhao Huai carefully felt the changes in his body. He found that the cells in his body seemed to open up, becoming extremely active and lively, and the meridians in his body widened, allowing his true qi to flow faster. The quality of qi inside his body was much higher than before. More importantly, his muscle strength surged, his qi blood surged, and his spirit became much better. If Zhao Huai's figure was previously more elegant and thin, now it could be called perfect. Having power without losing beauty, his muscle curves were incomparably perfect and just right. This was a prerequisite to opening up the peak transformation, as the flesh body must withstand it. Zhao Huai felt very good about himself. Then, he dismantled Scholar of Wood Plants, and upgraded Vajra Body. Vajra Body, high-quality yellow, your flesh body becomes extremely hard, and iron weapons cause negligible harm to you, except for magical weapons. Unlike before, Vajra Body did not need to consume true qi and could now resist all iron injuries. The upgrade was limited due to the limitation of destiny, so it didn't advance to the black grade level. Senior, the technique has been brought to you. Li Yanqing, who had been standing nearby and didn't dare to disturb Zhao Huai as he pondered, finally spoke up when the beautiful maid holding an exquisite jade slip in her hand slowly approached. Zhao Huai's consciousness returned to the present, and he couldn't help but feel a strong interest in the insanity technique presented before him. I will give you the money later. After handing over the money and spiritual stones, Li Yanqing shook his head with a smile. This technique will be my registration fee for you, senior. From now on, you are my teacher. He generously gifted the large sum of 3,000 spiritual stones. It wasn't necessarily foolish of the youngster to do so. He did have some cunning in him. Zhao Huai couldn't help but think so. You said your father is a governor. Is he the prefecture chief of Jianzhou? True to the saying, those who take others' things find it hard to resist their demands. Zhao Huai's attitude was no longer so indifferent as it had been before. Exactly. Li Yanqing nodded solemnly. My father discovered a new spiritual mine with the Heliacal Mysterious sect a month ago. He's in charge of mining it. Senior, if you teach me qi refining, there will definitely be no shortage of spiritual stones. You dare to speak of such confidential matters? Aren't you afraid I'll sell you out? Zhao Huai's mouth twitched, at a loss for words. It turned out that the little lad's family had a mine, no wonder he was so rich. At the beginning of the Great Xia dynasty, each state established the position of governor, who was regarded as the top local official. The position of the Jianzhou prefecture chief was still very high. Jianzhou, geographically, is located in the south near the sea, known for its salt trade, making it one of the rich cities in Xia country. I trust Senior. Li Yanqing said solemnly. Seeing his attitude, Zhao Huai's eyes were slightly moved. Since coming here, he had always felt that this world was cruel and full of intrigue, but this boy's attitude made him change his mind. This auction is now over. Thank you for coming, and we hope to see you next time. Li Yuanqing, who was at the center of the counter, looked at the empty backstage with a smile on his face and announced the end of the auction. The four masked men under the stage stared deeply at the single room on the high platform and left the scene. Zhao Huai's eyes were fixed on it, and he knew it was time to leave. He looked at the insanity technique in his hand. He couldn't help but ponder. Why do demons need this cultivation technique so much? At this moment, in Huai's pawnshop located in the East Busy Street, a charming woman sat. It was hard not to glance at her as the passing men just wanted to feast their eyes. This pawnshop owner's new wife was even better looking than the tofu beauty in the West Lane. It was really strange, no one knew where he got such a beautiful woman. Qinghan enjoyed the sun, leisurely basking in it. The tall table in front of her was laid out with melon seeds, cake dates, dried fruits, and fresh fruit. She squinted her eyes against the dazzling sunlight, stretching out her delicate jade hand, looking like a lazy little kitten. This was the life a normal person should live, carefree and content. Qinghan thought to herself. What should I buy for dinner tonight? Her husband should be home in a couple of hours. It's been a long time since they last had dumplings, so maybe they should have dumplings tonight, with chive and mutton filling? Or maybe pork and cabbage filling. However, the next second, an untimely dark shadow appeared beside her, interrupting her thoughts. My princess, something terrible has happened. What is it? Qinghan replied indifferently. The woman who appeared from the shadow half knelt and reported, someone found out that the princess's name and portrait have appeared on the bounty list in the black market this afternoon and have been taken by someone. I have been tracking the traces of the two assassins all the way, but I was still a step behind. The assassins may have entered Jianzhou by now, so I came to inform the princess. It's just an assassin. I have fought powerful enemies at the initiation stage, so what is there to fear? Qinghan shook her head, not afraid. My princess may not be afraid, but young Master Zhao. Yes, my husband. Qinghan suddenly realized that she didn't need to worry about assassins with her cultivation level, but Zhao Huai was different. He was just an ordinary person. If the assassin didn't target her first but attacked her weakness instead, what should she do? The beautiful maidservant noticed Qinghan suddenly standing up, her aura changing, and a cold murderous intent filling the air. Your Highness, the princess. The beautiful maidservant hesitated, only to be interrupted. You watch the shop. I'll be back shortly. Qinghan held her wrist, giving a cold order. In the next second, she turned into a residual shadow, disappearing on the spot. A very fast figure swept across the eaves, and many people couldn't see what it was. Passers-by on the road glanced sideways, wondering where this sudden gust came from during the day. The auction ended, and Zhao Huai and Li Yanqing walked out of the venue side by side. Zhao Huai's gaze swept around, waiting for the crisis to happen. Under the blessing of the stable Taoist mind, destiny, his mind was extremely sensitive to everything around him. He could perceive even the slightest movement. Unfortunately, there was no sign of any movement. Zhao Huai tossed the copper coins again, and the result was consistent with the previous one. Act calmly but firmly, and he could pass the crisis with ease. "Senior, are you waiting for someone?" Li Yanqing saw Zhao Huai looking around and couldn't help but ask curiously. "No, I'm just worried that the people you competed with earlier might ambush you." Zhao Huai shook his head. Li Yanqing's face was full of optimism, pointing to the servants around him. "Don't worry, my father found me some bodyguards. Although they are not as good as you, they are still in the 3rd or 4th stages of qi refining. Isn't that enough for self-protection?" The next second, Zhao Huai's big hand patted Li Yanqing's shoulder, making him stunned. Zhao Huai's expression was serious. "Remember, never underestimate anyone. This is the first lesson I teach you. Disciple will follow your teachings." Li Yanqing nodded earnestly. "Let's go, the governor's mansion is on my way." Zhao Huai saw that there was no danger for the time being, walked ahead, and said leisurely. Li Yanqing followed with his servants quickly. "Why do you want to practice qi refining?" As they were walking, Zhao Huai suddenly asked. Li Yanqing sighed. "My father said that if I didn't practice qi refining, he wouldn't let me inherit his business. But I've changed many teachers and still failed." "Your father must be very kind to you then." Li Yanqing immediately shook his head. "No, he is too fierce, and he is always busy, so I rarely see him. Everyone envies me, but I don't like it this way." Zhao Huai smiled slightly and instructed. "You are actually in the midst of fortune." Suddenly, at that moment, a chilling sense of crisis emerged from Zhao Huai's spine, extremely cold, as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Stable Taoist mind vaguely acted, sending a refreshing breath into his body. His body seemed to have a nerve reflex, moving backward. Several sharp cold lights cut through the sky, falling from the heavens. Thin as wings flying knives passed extremely quickly before his eyes. In Zhao Huai's eyes, time seemed to slow down. The flickering cold light in front of him, each one emitting a terrifying chill. In an instant, time returned to normal. Zhao Huai's center of gravity fell backward, and his right hand pulled Li Yanqing beside him. Soon, he regained his footing. They were about 4 or 5 meters away from their original position. Puff! The 3 servants surrounding Li Yanqing were directly pierced by the flying knives that fell from the sky. Their bodies collapsed heavily to the ground, blood splattering on the spot. "There's an assassin! Protect the young master!" A servant shouted loudly. The remaining servants wrapped Li Yanqing in the middle, their faces tense and as if facing a formidable enemy. Only Zhao Huai's face was calm, his gaze sweeping around, activating his spiritual power to look for traces of the assassin. No wonder he couldn't find the enemy just now, as they were actually hiding in a high place. Zhao Huai's sharp eyes swept over the empty alley in front of him, fixing on 2 figures on the eaves not far away. The opponents were also in the qi refining realm. "Scholar, your sleeping flying knives failed. What's the situation?" On the eaves, a burly butcher questioned with a deep voice. "This person seems to be somewhat skilled and not that simple. We cannot be careless." A touch of solemnity appeared on life-taking Scholar's thin face. This person could dodge his flying knives, definitely a cultivator as well. "Damn it, we've never failed when we work together. If a sneak attack won't work, then let's do it the hard way." The butcher spat and leaped into the air, 20 meters above the ground. He landed heavily, shattering the green tiles beneath him and sending up a cloud of dust. The life-taking Scholar tapped his toes and jumped down gracefully. Zhao Huai faced the 2 of them without fear, rubbing his hands together, eager to test the power of his destiny. Both of them wore black bamboo hats that obscured their faces. Zhao could only make out their silhouettes, one fat and one thin. Li Yanqing watched nervously from afar, held back by his attendants. These 2 men seemed quite formidable. He hoped his senior could defeat them. Zhao Huai had thought that when the enemy revealed themselves and leapt down, they would have some words to say, like threatening remarks or something. But the next moment, the life-taking scholar violently flicked the fan in his hand. 6 flying daggers shot out from the fan. Like a cheetah, the butcher dashed towards Zhao Huai with incredible speed, quickly closing the distance between them despite his bulky size. The two didn't say a word and just began their attack. They had a clear strategy, one focused on long-range attacks to draw attention, while the other closed in for a rapid takedown. The butcher's speed was incredible, and in the blink of an eye, he was already at Zhao Huai's side. Ever since they realized that Zhao Huai's strength was not ordinary, they had planned to use lethal force. Every move they made was aimed at killing him. Despite facing their combined assault, Zhao Huai remained calm, disregarding the flying daggers and focusing solely on the butcher in front of him. However, a shocking scene soon unfolded. As the butcher threw a punch imbued with powerful qi and true qi surging through his meridians, his veins swelled, as if a single blow could reduce a bull into a pile of mince. Yet, his punch was effortlessly caught by an invisible hand, like hitting cotton, soft and powerless. Zhao Huai's right palm caught the butcher's technique without losing any energy. With his left hand clenched into a fist, he threw a plain punch that caused the surrounding air to whistle and screech. Whoosh! The butcher's reaction was extremely fast, but by the time his eyes regained focus, the fist was already on his left cheek. He was unable to resist. Bang! With a loud explosion, a wave of energy radiated from the center of Zhao Huai, spreading violently. A shadow flew out at high speed, snapping a willow tree in half at its waist. Yet it didn't stop there, as the shadow continued to crash into a solid mud wall, causing debris to scatter before finally stopping. Ting! Ting! The flying daggers finally reached Zhao Huai, aiming for his heart, forehead, and neck. Their metallic clink sounded incredibly unnatural. The 6 flying daggers fell to the ground ineffectively. Seeing this, the life-taking scholar's pupils shrank, and his icy face was filled with amazement, as a sense of foreboding overtook him. Li Yanqing and the surrounding attendants exchanged shocked glances. Did he take them down that quickly? With a smile on his face, Zhao Huai rubbed his wrist, his narrowed eyes brimming with sympathy as he chuckled. Coming to die? Do you know the power of my punch? The life-taking scholar looked back at the battered butcher, his eyes conveying a hint of terror and uncertainty as he asked. Who are you? They came to assassinate someone, not to be assassinated themselves. That's the question I should be asking you. Zhao Huai couldn't help but laugh. The life-taking scholar fell silent immediately. The next second, 6 sharp sword tips emerged from the layers of his feather fan, which made a swish sound. Empowered by his true qi, the 6 fan swords levitated. It seemed the enemy still wanted to fight. Extreme intention, activate. Zhao Huai muttered internally. Showing no mercy, he went all out and directly activated his peak mode. All the true qi within his body was mobilized, and his 9th stage of refining qi cultivation had doubled. The commotion generated by the true qi was enormous. The wind rustled the leaves of the distant willows, and the signs of the surrounding shops trembled under the force of the turbulent qi. As dusk approached and Jianzhou City gradually grew dimmer, an unknown force continued to stir up whirlwinds in the hidden alleyways. Zhao Huai could feel the surging power within him, his eyes, with a hint of surprise. This ultimate intense state at the 9th stage of refining qi unexpectedly had a trace of touching the initiation realm's shadow. His flesh absorbed a large amount of spiritual qi from the universe, all of which transformed into the true qi within his body, and the true qi in his pubic region continuously compressed, showing a trace of condensing into true vigor. 7. One should know that only at the initiation realm could one gather the qi in the pubic region, compress spiritual qi, and solidify it into true vigor. Now, he seemed to have reached the threshold of the initiation stage. Swoosh! The life-taking scholar quickly launched an attack without a moment's rest. The sharp 6-fan sword pierced towards Zhao Huai's face in a flash. In the eyes of Li Yanqing and others, they could only vaguely see the blurred after-images. However, Zhao Huai's expression was calm as he extended 2 fingers and leisurely intercepted the incoming sword edge. Then, with a flick of his index finger, ding! A crisp sound emanated from the sword body. During the sword control process, the life-taking scholar felt a fierce qi coming towards him. He hurriedly concentrated his mind, mobilizing his true qi to resist the attack. Splash! However, the suspended 6-fan sword lost its strength under this attack and fell to the ground with a clatter. The surface of the sword edge cracked into segments and became scrap iron. With the support of the ultimate intent, Zhao Huai's finger had the power of tens of thousands of pounds, and with full force exerted, how could the life-taking scholar withstand it? Seeing his defeat in a single move, the life-taking scholar quickly retreated, his face ugly, and his gloomy eyes sweeping over Li Yanqing and others. Judging from his steps, there was no doubt that he was showing fear. Without a doubt, he had the intention to retreat. Assassination was not about sending oneself to death. As long as one was alive, one remained a hero. Trying to leave? Zhao Huai had a keen sense of insight and noticed his opponent's fear almost immediately. The black ring flashed, and a long sword with a dark blue double-edged blade and a deep sword body hovered in front of Zhao Huai. This was exactly the unknown treasured sword. The power of fist arts and flesh was certainly not bad, so why not try sword techniques? As he spoke, Zhao Huai's big hand clenched, and as the cold iron entered his hand, he immediately felt a heart-to-heart connection. It was the swordsmanship specialization, destiny quietly operating, giving him an excellent sense of adaptability when using weapons. His fists were so powerful in their own right, how formidable would he be with a sword? Chills flashed through the heart of the life-taking scholar. As a result, he stepped hard on the green slate stone, splashing it, and flew more than 10 meters away in an instant before fleeing. Such a decisive escape undoubtedly left his back exposed to Zhao Huai. As an assassin, you have no fighting spirit? Zhao Huai chuckled softly and swung his sword-holding hand, throwing the long sword outward. Swoosh! The sound of air breaking burst forth. Damn it! Seeing the sword coming toward him, the life-taking scholar exclaimed through gritted teeth. With a swing of his large sleeve, 8 sharp blades shot out in an attempt to block the strike. Seeing this, Zhao Huai's figure moved, disappearing on the spot. Ding, ding, ding. All 8 blades were knocked away by the flying sword. The next second, Zhao Huai appeared in midair, reaching out to catch the sword just right. Immediately afterward, with a forceful swing. With the support of the ultimate's intention stage, Zhao Huai's flesh body seemed unchained. The sword body trembled, and a dragon-like blue sword qi emerged from the sword edge, breaking through the air with the sword. As the sword qi approached, the life-taking scholar's eyes flashed with extreme terror. It was already too late to resist. PFF. The sword qi shattered the life-taking scholar's true qi barrier, instantly crushed his heart meridian, causing him to spew a large mouthful of blood. His limp body fell to the ground like a boneless cloth doll, heavily. Before dying, his eyes were wide open, apparently not expecting the failure this time to be at the hands of an ordinary-looking young man. This unknown treasured sword seems to be a magical weapon. Zhao Huai wiped the blood on the sword with the life-taking scholar's clothes, looking at the crystal-clear sword body, and muttered to himself. At this moment, the butcher's stiff body shook slightly, and the pig-slaughtering knife at his waist was drawn out with a swish and hung parallel to the ground. A pair of angry eyes opened, even red. On the other side, Zhao Huai's mind seemed to sense something. He just raised his eyelid, and his eyes showed no ripples. With a throw of his hand, the long sword turned into a dark blue lightning, shooting out. Clang! The resonance of the sword was ethereal and clear, like a water droplet falling into a 1,000-year cold pool. So strong. The butcher's chest, which had just sat up, was pinned to the mud wall by a long sword. Immediately, the pig-killing knife clattered to the ground, blood oozed out of the corners of the butcher's mouth, and the disbelief in his eyes lingered for a long time. Zhao Huai walked slowly, drew the long sword from the wall, and sighed. Leaving him alive probably wouldn't get any information, and with the previous lesson in mind, he didn't plan to hold back this time. Are these assassins really here to kill me? I feel like they made a sudden decision. Could it be another assassination of Madame? Zhao Huai pondered secretly. Combining the experience of the last time and this time, it was not difficult for him to infer that the real target of these assassins was Qinghan. However, they chose the weakest, and they all came to him. Zhao Huai felt that this was unacceptable, for who could tolerate being assassinated every day? He had to have an in-depth communication with Madame at night. Some contradictions need to be resolved at the root. Senior. Senior. At this time, Li Yanqing ran over excitedly, and the followers around him could barely catch up. Your swordsmanship is so powerful. Can you teach me? Li Yanqing's face was full of excitement, even more excited than the first time he went to the brothel. Zhao Huai retracted the sword into the black ring and said indifferently, you still have a long way to go. Practice refining qi first. Li Yanqing was not discouraged at all and grinned. No problem. He thought that as long as he followed such a master for cultivation, where would he be afraid that he couldn't practice refining qi? The strength Zhao Huai showed completely outperformed the so-called expert cultivators Li Yanqing's father had found. Those unscrupulous sects obviously took his father's money but sent a few ordinary disciples to teach him. Wasn't that perfunctory? Zhao Huai collected the money bags from the two corpses in front of him, counted them accurately, and found that there was a lot of silver, thousands of silver bills, and hundreds of spiritual stones. It was a small fortune. Then he took out 2 fire thunder talismans he had refined from the black ring. Senior, is this a talisman inscription? Li Yanqing was very insightful, seeing the yellow paper with various patterns carved by Zhao Huai and saying it immediately. Yeah. Zhao Huai answered softly, then threw out the fire thunder talismans in his hand. The masculine fire ignited spontaneously from the talisman. In the blink of an eye, the raging red flames engulfed the 2 corpses. Burned to a pile of black ash, this can also be regarded as another use of the fire thunder talisman. With a gentle breeze, it disappeared. After destroying the corpses and hiding the evidence, the dead would naturally be unverifiable. Zhao Huai looked at the scattered ashes and thought to himself. In an instant, Zhao Huai suddenly remembered that there was one more thing he hadn't dealt with. That was the 4 masked strangers he encountered in the auction. He remembered that these 4 people were going to trouble him. But now, where are they? Zhao Huai did not forget that the identities of the 4 masked strangers were likely to be demons.